What is up, everybody? More of the horror event. So I'll probably play some of like Lost Vault 1 or something, but I want to at least progress enough. Because if you do some of this stuff, you can start growing golem cores and void dust and stuff, so you just get them for free, which is kind of nice, but the event itself is still terrible, but what are you gonna do? Jesus Christ, thank you Looking Glass Knight for the 245 bits, Jesus. I tell you, man, like, that's crazy how many bits you give me over the years. I really appreciate it. Alright, yeah, growing mats is kind of nice. Look at all this, Jesus, look at all this free stuff though. I'll take that. Dude, oh god, I know. This has been one of the hardest events for me to play, and it sucks because I think there's going to be a grail from it, and like, I'm really wanting to grail Babbage on my ult account. I'm really wanting to do that, right? It's just, oh god. By the way, they should have made, so you know how when they do events, like, if they give damage bonuses, it's always like whoever's rated up, you know, the new SSR gets the max bonus and that kind of thing, and then like the characters that are story relevant to the event get like, you know, the medium damage bonus. And then, you know, people that are like barely in it or bronzes or whatever, you know, they get the minimum bonus. But I feel like whenever, every once in a while, when it's really thematic and it makes a lot of sense, or it's like a good meme or whatever, they should sometimes let some of the old servants get the max bonus. Like, for example, in this event, the max bonus goes to, you know, Himiko, Nobukatsu, and not Virgil, right? Because they're the three new characters, so they get the maximum, you know, bonus. But they should have given Rice Man the maximum bonus. Like, obviously, like with like that would have been amazing. Like, and you don't explain it. You don't say why. You just give him the max bonus, right? And you don't do anything like special in the story or anything that you wouldn't have done otherwise. But they just get the 100% bonus. Like, yeah, that'd be really fitting for this event. But yeah, like just there's some events where it's like you can do stuff like that. I think would be a lot of fun. Alright. That'd require imagination, alright? Also, they really like to hype up the new characters, because it's like, you know, they want people to roll on them and everything, so. I mean, Rice Man is an event servant in this. He just doesn't get a, you know, a special bonus or anything. He's just a typical one. I finally got my Rice Man up, too. He's finally 70 on my main. He was one of the last 3 stars I got up, and it's not because I don't like him. It took me so long to raise him because I didn't want to... The mats, man. Like, fuck. That comfy emote. Oh, God, this event. This is definitely going down in the history books for me of one of my least favorite events ever. It's like Go West, Maze event. At least I can say this about the Maze event. You know, they made it less bad. It was still bad, but they made it less bad. But legitimately, I enjoy like the final couple of story bosses and stuff. You know, like those are good. But still, the Maze event was really terrible. But yeah, Summer 3 sucks. Maze event sucks. Go West sucks. This one sucks. Let me think. There's been a couple other ones that have been pretty bad. And I see a lot of people say the Moon event, you know, from like the very beginning of the game. But I don't think that one was that bad. I don't think it was good. I'm not like, yeah, Moon event. But it's like, it was so easy to farm. You could just, you know, be like, okay, it's a boring farming event, but at least the farming is really easy and I can just autopilot it and do something else, right? Like, it wouldn't entertain you, right? That event would not entertain you, but it wouldn't really annoy you either. Thank you for the 105 bits, Frost. Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm hydrating. I literally hydrated right before the stream. Yeah, because the Moon event was basically glorified dailies, right? It's literally just glorified dailies. And I don't like events like that, but I prefer glorified dailies than like tedium that's not interesting, right? Which that's what this event is. I do like the FP in this event though, yeah. Getting a lot of CE XP is nice. Awesome for new accounts too. You can kind of, you know, catch up a bit. I really didn't mind doing the 10 AP thing over and over again just because you could so easily farm that. Like, it didn't matter if you were new account, old account, like you could just destroy that stage so fast and easy. And hell, you didn't even have to look at the screen. You could just like tap random buttons and you'll 3 or 4 turn it without, you know, giving a shit. Which, that's bad if you're wanting to be entertained by FGO, but if you got something else, like you're doing homework, or you're watching a movie, or you're playing a different game, or you're reading, or whatever, you know, then that's actually really nice on the side to just, you know, tap the screen every once in a while and get some progress done, you know. But yeah, I would never hold up that event as like, oh yeah, this event's awesome, right? Obviously that event was not awesome, you know, it doesn't hold a candle to like the actual good events that they make from time to time. Honestly, I think Himiko, in terms of gameplay, is kind of cool. I think she's overrated a bit, but I do think she's good. I'm not crazy about her character, personally, but I could definitely see if like someone really likes Himiko, that'd be a really fun unit to just try to make work often. Because she's a ruler, and so she's applicable like all the damn time, right? So that's kind of nice. And in many ways, I've said this a lot, whenever they make units like her, I'm glad. It's like they make a unit that's good and works, but it's not like they're not breaking the game or anything, you know. It's just like not Virgil is really good and solid, and you know he loops really well with double Castoria, but so does everyone else. For like a typical player, just like, you know, working through Shimosa or working through the main story or whatever, you know, not Virgil is not gonna like just, you know, trounce the game and make it a joke, right? He's not better than Sitting Master and Lancelot and those kinds of things. That's good, you know. I think it's good when you make units like that. But yeah, they work if you like them. You can have some fun, but they're not gonna just make the game trivial or anything. They're not like the new meta all of a sudden. Yeah, I really hope at some point they add that event to Rare Prism Shop, the Kentucky one. Like, that would just be so useful to so many people. And like, even if like you make a new account and you don't have the Rare Prisms right away, you know, it's like, it'd be nice if people could be like, hey, here's a thing you can do, you know, you can build towards it, you know, when you get Rare Prisms, you know, you kind of work towards getting, you know, Kentucky, who's really helpful, and, you know, Golden Sumo. And the thing is, I think Golden Sumo is slightly overrated, and some of that I think is my fault, but, it's like, it's really good, and it's like one of the best, like, generic CEs, because it's applicable all the time. Like, it's like, if you don't know what to bring, you don't know what this unit needs, slap Golden Sumo on them, and you're at least going to get very good value out of it. Not necessarily the best value, you know, ever known to man, but it's like, it's really good, right? But it's not that specialized, and for very specific units, a lot of times you're better off with maybe Aerial Drive or something like that. The difference is incredibly minor. You know, what I always say about it is it's like, a lot of times Golden Sumo is like second best. Very rarely is Golden Sumo a unit's absolute best pick. But a lot of times it's their second or third best, right? And that applies to like everyone in the game, right? Where whatever their best CE is, that's not the best for very many people, right? So it's like Aerial Drive is only good for Buster units, right? Where Golden Sumo is almost that good, and then it also is good for literally everyone else ever, right? So it's like, it's just such a universal, you know, look at how much value this thing can hold, right? Like, it's really good like that. And that's why it's so good to level, because if you level up like Aerial Drive to 100, that's only going to benefit, you know, very specific units. Where if you level Golden Sumo, it's, you know, universally going to be useful to you. I've never regretted getting Sumo to 100, like, it's really nice. But I do think it's overrated. Some people are like, oh, I don't have Golden Sumo, how can I do this setup? And I'm like, well, if you have literally any other 50% starting in PCE, you know, it's fine. Yeah, Gramps, it kind of depends on what you're doing with them. Like, there are definitely some setups, especially in solos or last man standing. Because, you know, much like Ku and other units, you know, people act like, oh, Gramps is only good if you solo, and who actually solos, right? It's like, you can literally just put him in the back and have him last man stand, and he gets that kind of value anyway, right? But yeah, sometimes Gramps wants to have some kind of NP gain or art up or whatever, because there are times where it's like, that extra boost, depending on like the enemy's hit count and stuff, is like exactly what you need to like just get your NP one turn faster than you would have otherwise, because his art card is just insane. So sometimes that's right, but sometimes Gramps just wants like, you know, Buster up stuff and you just BBB forever, and it kind of depends on the boss fight. I actually like that about Gramps. There's some a lot of different ways, depending what kind of boss it is that makes his CE and makes that kind of stuff. Honestly, like, Gramps is not like my favorite solo unit, but I don't mind him, honestly. I think he's kind of fun. He's similar to Ku, where you need to like try to time his guts and cast it ahead of time, and and those kinds of things. Yeah, it's pretty fun. What CE would you give Ku if you don't have Sumo for general use? I mean, I guess it depends on what other CEs I have, but I mean, it's like generally just, you know, like the, you know, Drunken Jolter, right? It's pretty much the same thing, or the quick version now that we got from Christmas. I have no idea what that CE is called, and I'm never going to remember, but it's like that freebie Christmas CE they gave out, you know, like last year, that gives quick up and starting NP, and it's actually attack stat, you know, stuff like that. The main thing is like, yeah, honestly, aerial drive is fine for him. It's not like, oh my god, this is amazing, but he uses buster cards a decent amount, and starting NP is really good, and then, you know, you benefit from the NP up, so yeah, aerial drive's fine. It's absolutely not my top pick by any means, but the main thing to look out for is don't give him the fucking CCC one, the Sakura one. I see so many people do that. Don't fucking do that. That is such a bad CE for him. It's awful. Like, you're losing massive value on that thing, because the thing about Ku is, I don't know why this is, but I see this on the wiki and discords, and people just say this all the time about Ku. Do you think you're supposed to double down on the survivability thing, right? Do you think you're supposed to give him a CE with survivability, because he has a lot of survivability, but you just get so much diminishing returns when you do that, and a lot of times you won't even buy yourself an extra turn. And so all you're doing is, for these mini turns that Ku is guaranteed to be alive, you're not doing more damage, right? You want to give Ku as much damage as possible, because without any help, he's going to live for a really long time. So with those turns, you want him to do as much damage per turn as possible, right? So giving a survival CE is almost never the right thing to do. There are some rare circumstances where that's right. But yeah, the Sakura one was from like it was the free one from the CCC event, and it just gives pure health, which is absolutely not what you want. But like, if you're not gonna have starting NP, you know, things like, you know, Art of Death, really good. You know, if you're fighting a Berserker, the anti-Berserker one is really good. If you're fighting a caster, Origin Bullet is really good. You know, and in some circumstances, especially if it's limit broken, Imaginary Element can be really good. No, I'm sorry, Imaginary Round can be really good. Because sometimes you're going to focus on doing his quick cards. It depends on the setup, but if the enemy has a really high hit count, and if starting NP for whatever reason is not incentivized, like maybe the boss has a drain on turn 1 and you can't have starting NP, then like Imaginary Round can be really good, and you focus a lot on doing his quick cards. Because it makes his NP hit really, really hard. But then Black Grail too. Black Grail is really good on Ku. The only time I would say don't put Black Grail on Ku is if you are going to use him in the front row in like a team and it doesn't have Scatty or Wave or anything like that. Because if he's on a team and he's more like tanking and stuff, then you're not going to focus that much on his NP gain, and it's not really worth it. But if he's last man standing or soloing or whatever, then Black Grail can be really, really good. Yeah, I think some people overestimate Golden Sumo because I use it so much, but I use it so much because it's like, it's good, but it's not overpowered, and it's something everyone can mimic basically no matter what. That's the main reason why I use it so much, because it's like, I will say it is uniquely good on Ku, because Ku switches his card types constantly. Like he's just not one of those servants that's like spamming the same cards over and over. You know, you do like quick, and then you'll do like Buster, you know, quick art, or you do Buster art, Buster, and like there's just, you're all over the place with your card selection, so. My 3 level 100 Golden Sumos, that must be nice, honestly. The general use on that is insanely good. I think casters give the bonus drop for this. Yeah, they do. Do I have any CEs? Okay, I don't think they drop the bronze mat, so I don't think these CEs matter, but I'll bring them anyway. I think this stage drops silver and gold, because I was actually doing this on my main earlier. The APOC damage CE, I don't remember what that one did, but probably not. The fact that I don't remember what that CE does tells me it wasn't worth remembering, so it's not a good sign. I generally take a lot of note of any free CE that's good, because, you know, they're free, and then, you know, it's kind of my shtick, so. Gives only HP, that already sounds terrible. There will pretty much never be a CES meta for Ku that just gives HP. It's NP gain, crit star. Hold on, let me just, someone just link it, because everyone's saying it's this, that, and the other. I remember the picture, but I don't remember what it actually did. I'll just look it up on the wiki. Wasn't there more than one free CE from this event, though? Y'all talking about the one with Siegfried on it? Because the one from Siegfried is a freebie, and that was max HP, unless the wiki is wrong. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was two. The one with Siegfried on it is full HP, and it's just Buster and Art up, and then NP gain. That's awful. I mean, that's absolutely horrid. But I think there's another one too. Oh yeah, that one. The Mordred best uncle one. That's not particularly good, no. I mean, it's like, it's okay. If you had like nothing else, it's like, it's okay, because maybe you'll crit a little bit more, you know, but nah, that's, you know, Ku gets a lot of his damage from his NP, and then, yeah, you like to crit on Ku after your NP and stuff, but I mean, that's not. Starting NP is so much better for him than NP gain. I wish that CE was better, because Mordred's Master is kind of the best, but, and I don't know why I have to constantly explain why that Sakura CE is bad. It's not hard to figure out why that thing is bad. It's an offensive CE that has full health on it. Like, of course that's fucking bad. Like, there are units that want full health from their CEs, right? They're not units that want quick up and starting NP, right? That's obviously for a DPS. DPS does not want fucking 3,000 health and 0 attack. And like, the way NPs work in this game, I truly think people do not realize how much attack stat from like CEs adds up when it comes to NP damage, right? And you can just test this. Slap like a CE that has, you know, people that have like Golden Sumo, right? And like that Sakura one. Just slap the Sakura one on someone and have them NP 3 or 4 times, you know, because you got the low high roll system, so you got to do it 3 or 4 times, you know, write down how much damage it does. And then switch to Golden Sumo and do the same thing. You're going to see a very noticeable damage difference, right? It's very significant. And then Golden Sumo also applies to every normal attack you ever do, where the Sakura one doesn't. The Sakura one's so fucking bad. Like, any CE that has max health is generally for supports, right? Why on earth would you give your support quick up? Like, yeah, that makes sense, right? Like, supports are gonna want something like 20-30 or whatever, you know, shit like that. There's no reason to give a support that thing. Yeah, that one was from the Gacha, so a lot of people won't have it. The Scath one from Hagfest. It's pretty good. I don't think it's like as good as some of the other 50% starting NP things and stuff. But like if you're newer to the game and you kind of, that's one of your, you know, you happen to have it, it's totally fine, right? It's pretty decent. It's certainly not the best 50% starting NP one in the game, but it's like, if that's all you have to work with, it's not like a, you know, a huge problem. Hey, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. This is Roman Lee. Thank you, man. Yeah, I think a lot of people legitimately do like that CCC one because it has Sakura on it. Because it's just such a bad... I see people use it all the time. Well, not all the time, but I see, like, a decent amount, and it's fucking garbage, dude. Like, there are certain areas where I think DW does a really good job with CEs. Like, they give out a gut CE once a year, pretty much no matter what. That's nice. They give out at least 1 or 2 50% starting NPs per year, which that's also helpful. But sometimes they just really miss the ball on, like, you know, where they put the stats and stuff. And sometimes I think they do it on purpose because they're trying to, like, you know, even out, like, a CE and not make it too OP or something like that. But, like, with some of them, it's just, like, they don't need to be balanced like that because they're not that OP anyway. Like, it took them so long to make a free, quick starting in PCE that was good. You know, every other card type had multiple, and then the quick had none except for that stupid Sakura one, which is crap. And then they just didn't. Every other quick starting in P1 was from the Gacha, which, you know, that's obviously not free, and a lot of people won't have it. You know, it wasn't until that, like, Christmas 4 or whatever, when they finally did it. 50% starting in Team Throne, 50% Star Absorb. I mean, that's very specific. It would be a team thing, and when you're actually going for a crit on a unit that needs Star Absorb, it's like, it's not general use at all, but I'm sure there's a very specific circumstance where you're like, yeah, I need a crit, I'm not gonna have that many stars, and then I also need to get my NP really fast, right? So then there's times that'd be okay, but rarely. I mean, I've never used it, and I don't think very many people do, but there's times it would be okay. Thoughts on this event's command codes? I actually looked at them earlier, then I forgot what they did. Let me look again. I remember the 5-star one was really good, but I don't even remember what it does. Let me see. Alright, so the 5-star one is you get 100% star absorb for any card type. That alone already good, right? It's already good, right? It's just like 100% star absorb for a card, and it's any card color of your choosing. That's super, super good. And then it makes that card crit do 10% more damage. That's fucking amazing. Like that's absolutely amazing. We've had lots of star absorb command codes before, and they're very good. But then that card would crit harder. This thing is it has higher star absorb, so it's more likely to crit. And then when it does crit, it crits harder. Like that is absolutely amazing. This is absolute fucking like incredible command code. This is one of like the absolute best ones. And it's still not necessarily better than like the Gil one and stuff, but this is among like the best command codes. That's super fucking good. The 4-star one is increase the card's critical damage by 25%, but only in burning field. So it's like, that's really, really good because you can put it on any color, but then it's only really good for people that like, apply burning field and stuff. So it's very niche, but in that niche, it's crazy strong. It's for Nobu, let's be real. But yeah, it's basically 25% more crit damage on any card that you want. And it can be Arc, Cluster, Quick, doesn't matter. So that's super good. But yeah, it's super good, but only for very specific things, for units, very specific units. The 3-star one is gain 1 critical star when you use the card, and then 5% more crit damage, which is fine. That's like a filler one. That's like you give like your that unit you like, but you're not wanting to give them the best command codes, but you want to give them something that makes them better, right? It's one of those, right? It's like it's nice. 1 more star is not a lot, but if you're doing a quick chain, on a unit, and then you put that on a quick card, so that quick chain is a little bit better. It's okay. And then on top of that, it crits a bit harder. Again, you would never give this to like your favorite unit or that unit you're like actively soloing with or whatever. You would never do that. But like one of those side units, like yeah, I want them to have some command codes, but I don't want to give them the top tier stuff. You give them that, right? So that's nice. Yeah, all these command codes are really good. These are some of the better command codes they've done. Normally like 1 or 2 of the command codes are good, and then like there's that one that's garbage. None of these are like that. These are all really good. Honestly, the 5-star one is so good though. That's ridiculous. It's like it does everything you want on the card. It's like the card you're wanting to crit is more likely to crit, and then it crits harder. So that's super. That's like, oh my god, that's so nice for Lancelot. If you want to like make Saber Lancelot do it better in solos, because now you can you can make that one card more likely to get the crit even when he has every card in the hand, but then it also will crit harder and things like that. There's so many good command codes now. Like you have a lot of good options, and like what I really like about command codes is generally they're greater than the sum of their parts, right? If you really think, if you take a second, right, and really maximize, like it depends on the servant, but like you really think about, okay, what kind of chains am I gonna do? And then like what would I do after that? So you can kind of think about which cards need which codes, and then you pick codes that work together. Like you do Star Bomb with Star Absorb, right? Those things play off of each other, extra well. You're making even more stars, and you have even more likely for it to go to this place. It's like doubling up on your crit chance, right? Like I really like that about command codes, because the reward. Like when I was doing, what was it? Oh, Sanson. I don't know I don't think I ever streamed this, but when I was soloing Guadio with Sanson, I was looking at like, okay, I'm almost always going to do like on this turn, build my NP, then do a quick chain, then do my NP. Like I pretty much knew what kind of card order I was going to go with, right? And so I could kind of think about, okay, on these turns, that's when I would use these cards, and that's when I would need the heal, so put the heal command code on this, or put the crit on this, or whatever. That's always fun to do, because you can kind of plan. D-tier Lancer. I really hope that people think she's bad, so she gets buffed, because I want her NP to be buffed, because obviously she pretty much works as a single target unit right now, and she's really good at that. But it'd be nice if she also could do really strong AoE. Like, that would be pretty cool. So if they buff her NP, it's not like that's gonna make her single target damage that much better, right? But it'd make her AoE stuff better, which that would be actually kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, Canis doesn't need a buff, like obviously, but I wouldn't complain if she got one. I mean, if you're going to add deck modification, I don't see any reason to, put it behind being level 100, but I don't know, like a lot of units on deck modification would be a lot harder than I think people realize, because it could really mess up a lot of like balance when it comes to like how they did NP rates and star rates and things like that. Like if Gramps all of a sudden had triple quick, I mean the amount of stars he's making is that's wrong, right? Like it's not designed that way, right? There's a lot of, and like if Gramps had, you know, another art card, now there's so many problems, right, like balance wise, so I don't think they should really do it. Like, there are very specific units that it's, like, frustrating because DW picked very stupid decks for them. But there's other units that, like, if you could change their decks, it would be absurd, right? Like, it would not be, the, you know, good for the game. So, maybe what you could do is, like, a unique thing where very specific units, you're allowed to go to their profile and change their decks slightly within certain parameters. That way you could fix certain servants to a degree. But then if you like the old way, you can keep the old way. You know, servants like, I don't know, you know, Jekyll and Hyde, for example, you know, stuff like that. But honestly, one of the best things that they could do is just fix hit counts. Like, oh my god, like, I always see people complaining about hit counts and servants that it doesn't matter on. Like, there are certain servants that they have low hit counts, but their gain rates are so high that it's fine. And if you change their hit counts, they would become absolutely insane. Like, if you change Thinno's hit counts, Stino would be nuts. Like the rates on her cards are so fucking high, right? So if you added literally one hit count to her cards, it's ludicrous, right? So like units like that don't need a hit count change. But yeah, like Berserker Vlad could use a hit count change. Sanson needs a hit count change. Like holy shit. Because like, you know, Sanson doesn't even have good gain rates, and he's supposed to be making stars, but then he doesn't. And then Matahari kind of needs a hit count change just because like her star gen skill doesn't work very well without it, but she's not like, I mean Matahari is so much better than Sanson and Jekyll and Hyde and those kinds of units because she doesn't do what she was necessarily designed to have done. I think they wanted her to be a star gen character that also charmed a lot, and within some utility. That's what they were wanting her to be. Or what she actually is basically pure utility and then a massive damage up servant. You know, she's like a stand-in big boy damage, you know, support. That's a 1-star that any card type can use. She's not as good as like the other big boy damage supports, but everyone has Matahari. Like, seriously, she gives you 40 to 60% damage up to any card type, right? That's like Jesus for a 1-star, right? Like that's really good. But yeah, she's obviously supposed to do star gen, but she doesn't at all. But it's not like, I mean, you know, Matahari is a really good low star, so. She's just really niche, you know, she's targeted at something very specific, but that's like a niche that you need to have available to you, so. But it's not like if you gave her good stars, then she'd be over here. Yeah, no, Camarella, oh my god. And then like Caesar could have used a hit count increase in that like his gain rates aren't OP, but he's supposed to have bad NP gain. That's why they were willing to give him that absolutely insane NP buff. His whole thing now is he's one of the, actually he is the hardest hitting NP for 1 to 3 stars, and you know, hell, even for higher rarity than that for the most part. He's got one of the harder hitting NPs, period, right? And if you grail him, like, holy shit, right? So Caesar hit real fucking hard with his NP, right? And then he gives your team some, you know, basic support as well. The drawback to that, though, is his gain rate and survivability is bad. That's a fair trade-off. You know, like, if you just gave Caesar really good gain rates, why would you ever use Bedivere, right? So it's like, he's fine the way that he is, in my opinion. I never really thought about that, Arjuna, but that is pretty funny. That's actually, I gotta say, that is really good about Himiko because, you know, she really can help, in a team setting, she can help the team make a absolute, you know, crap load of stars, and you just have like one other thing on the team to make stars, like Hans, Merlin, 2030, whatever. You know, you're gonna basically be critting very consistently for 3 turns, and then although Himiko herself is not like the best crit servant ever, like absolutely not, she's pretty good though, right? So if she happens to like, oh, I get a Buster crit card, that's like, yeah, okay, that'll do a lot of damage, and then when your other unit on the team is going to be critting and they're really going to be doing damage, right? That's really nice. I actually don't want Mori to have a gorilla deck, that would make him worse. It'd make him better in certain circumstances, but for the way I use him and for the way I think most low stars need to use him, that would make him worse. Outside of like incredibly specific circumstances. Because right now, the best way to use Mori most of the time, for like a budget setting, is Mozart, Mori, Qingong. And the synergy there is so extreme, because Mozart is very short-term bursty, but then Qingong can yeet him, right? And you're happy to yeet him because you're not killing someone that's actually going to help you anymore, right? And then you get this guaranteed crit, and you know, obviously, even if Mori has his buff block up, you'll still get the crits. You don't need to be able to receive buffs to benefit from 50 stars being generated, right? So it's like, that's really good. And then because Mori has 2 art cards, you can get that big chunky art up from Mozart. And you might be like, well, why? Well, who cares? If you have more Buster cards, you get the Buster up from Chin or something. Like, why? It's because it gives you NP gain, right? With more health, you don't need. I keep telling people this. You don't need to do 3 million damage to a health bar, right? That almost never happens. It's more about doing enough damage to a health bar, and then have a way to do enough damage to the next health bar, right? And so what you want to do with Mori. And it's like, last time I used him, he was struggling with this, but that wasn't because of Mori. That was because I was using fucking 3-star craft essences and all that trash. You know, you want to be able to, like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, maybe Buster art, and maybe someone else gives me a Buster card for Buster card bonus, or you know, whatever. And you do these big crits, and because you got the guaranteed crit makes more NP gain. You got the art up, that's more NP gain. You can probably get starting NP. Then, hey, look, Mori's got his NP now. And yeah, Mori's NP's not the best, but it does, you know, a lot of times you don't need the best damage. So you crit, break a health bar, then you NP, break a health bar, then maybe you crit again, right? Like, you want that kind of, you know, progression with Mori generally. Triple Busters, like, oh wow, I broke the health bar even harder, right? Like, who cares? That's not very helpful. Now, there are circumstances, maybe you need to do more damage than normal. Maybe you're using stronger supports like Merlin and stuff, and you're not really needing that kind of NP gain help, like from the art up. Or maybe using Waiver, right? So like, you're going to get your NP anyway, and you'd rather just get the bigger Buster cards because you're going to get your NP gain from Waiver or something, right? So there are times that a triple Buster deck would be better, but Mori's a budget unit for the most part. You know, if you're going really whale mode, most people aren't going to use Mori anyway. And if you're doing budget stuff, then, you know, you're not going to be using, you know, that much of the OP supports. So I really like him the way that he is. It works pretty perfectly for him. I mean, Mori's CE changes almost entirely based on what you're doing. It's completely context specific. But generally, you know, starting NP and damage up, because if you're at 0 NP, you know, you're probably not going to get your NP right away. Yeah, Chin Gong gives you 10%, you got that art up and all that, but that's probably not going to be enough on its own. Sometimes what I do, depending on what I'm fighting, is I'll have like Chin Gong taunt Mori, and then give Mori like evade from the Mystic Code or something, and that also helps with NP gain. Yeah, Golden Sumo's really good because Golden Sumo helps his Buster card and it helps his art card, right? That's what I'm, you know, it's just, you know, because you like Mori's art cards, right? They're very much a part of his gameplay, so it's like, it's nice that Golden Sumo helps both, and it gives you the starting NP, so you can kind of smoothly go from you know, crits into NP and then to crits again, because also the attack up still helps your NP damage as well, so it's like Golden Sumo's good or something. Because the thing is, if you're wanting to just like, because you know, there are like, for instance, when I'm farming the pirate ship for hero proofs, right? There's just no need to do like a 3-turn NP loop thing for those kind of stages, because you can, you know, BBB it up so easily. But if you're wanting to do that, you don't really need to use Mori. And even if you do use Mori, him having 2 Buster cards, you're probably gonna be able to one-shot the mobs with an art card anyway, right? So if you're wanting to do like, you know, heavy B spam, he's good enough. But if you're wanting to do that kind of thing, Mori's just not really aimed at that kind of thing. You got Lu Bu for that, or, you know, other berserkers. So, and that's good. That's good design in my opinion, because it's like it gives Lu Bu a reason to be used still. I was actually in the Phantom of the Opera guy stream the other day, and people were talking about William Tell, and I was kind of saying, you know, William Tell's good, but he's like completely inferior to Robin, right? And then they were kind of saying like, you know, that's because it's almost impossible to make units, you know, not be directly compared to another unit now. But I actually don't agree with that. I think that we might get to that point eventually, but like, I think it'd be really easy for William Tell to have things that are different from Robin. Like, imagine if William Tell could remove debuffs from his team. Imagine that. William Tell can just remove debuffs from his team, right? All of a sudden, William Tell is an awesome use, because low stars have fuck all anti-debuff, right? And so let's say you're fighting a Saber, for God's sakes, or an AoE fight, or like you're fighting multiple enemies, at least one of them's a Saber, right? And then there's a debuff element. William Tell is looking real good right now, right? Now, if there's not a debuff element, then yeah, you're probably still gonna want Robin. That's fine, that's good, right? I think it's really easy a lot of times to give side units that are similar to other units something that occasionally makes them worth using over them, and then their general use is close enough that if you like them, it's fine. Because, you know, if you like William Tell, if you're like, oh my god, William Tell's awesome, right? You grail him, you know, you do all that stuff, and yeah, of course, you know, maybe Robin's better, but he's good enough, right? If you're fighting a Saber, it's gonna be fine, it's no problem. But it's nice when there's that time where you know it's like, okay, yeah, this is, you know, William Tell is blatantly better than Robin here, right? This boss is doing debuffs, you know, and he's got some debuff removal. You know, this is really nice. One second, I need to turn my fan on. But anyway, so I think there are some units, like I think like the top tier 5 stars. I think top tier 5 stars are really hard to make a new unit. Oh my god, I just turned my fan on like ultra high. Hold on, that's insanity. That's better. Anyway. Yeah, I need to fix my mic too. I think my sound suppression on my mic is busted. Ever since OBS updated, I don't think my sound suppression is working anymore. Tell me if you all can hear it or not, because I know when my sound suppression was working, you could not hear it, but now that my sound suppression I think might be busted, you might be able to hear it. Anyway, so some of the OP 5 stars, it's almost impossible to make a new unit. It's almost impossible to make a new unit that's like either on par or just different, like a side grade. You know, you either have to make them the same, weaker, or way better, right? Like it's really hard to make a Buster support that's like a side grade to Merlin, opposed to like a downgrade or an upgrade. But for most like low stars, that's not the case at all, and it's still, I think it's so easy for them to make new units that don't trivialize old units but then cover new niches, because there's just so many niches that aren't covered. Like I said, literally if you want to make a DPS good, just give them an anti-debuff thing on the side and all of a sudden they've got a nice use, right? And there's a lot of other things, like if they give some battery to the team, if they have taunt, if they have invulnerability instead of evade, for fuck's sakes, stuff like that. Like I think it's really easy to make new low stars that aren't just literally an ST caster, right? There's a lot, like, and William Tell's a good example of them doing it wrong. Like I think they did him really shitty because it's like he's so similar to Robin. Like what the fuck? I don't understand. They were like, yeah, let's literally pick all the same niches, right? He makes stars and shit, and he's art, and he's, you know, and he's got the big NP. Like, what are you, like, that's so similar to Robin. What are you doing, right? Like if he was just quick, for God's sakes, or Buster, for God's sakes, he would have been, you know, really different. Because if he was Buster, now he's working with Shin Gong and Shakespeare and now Nobukatsu and those kinds of units instead of Mozart and Hohenheim and those other units, right? So that alone would have been good if they'd made him a different card type. But they made him the same card type. They gave him almost the exact same, you know, niches, right? It's just like, what the hell? Like, it's that was really poorly done, and I'm really annoyed with that, because William Tell is actually a unit. Some of my older viewers will know this. Sometimes when people would ask me some units I'd like to see added to the game, normally I say, like, you know, Henry V or Butch Cassidy or stuff, but I had mentioned William Tell several times as like a really niche one that I thought would never get added, but would be cool if he did. And then they add him, and they did a really bad job with him, and I'm like, fuck. I'm not even working on the 5-star video right now. And I'm getting so fucking tired of people bugging me about that. Like, I'm so fucking over it, man. Like, if people would have just left me alone on that, I probably would have made it by now. But it's like, people just won't stop, and so I can't, you know, I literally can't not think about it. You know, I'm always being bugged by it, and that makes you, you know, not be able to relax and feel like, you know, oh, hey, now I'm in the mood to make this thing, and, you know, now I feel like doing like a commentary video, right? So you stay burnt out from when you did it in the first place, and then it makes you resent it, right? It makes you, like, because people are constantly pestering you about it, and especially because, like I always said, I don't really like the tier list videos, because, you know, they're not going to stay relevant forever, and then, you know, people don't even, like, I literally spent like weeks making the 4-star tier list video, and no one even watches it. They just skip to the end and say this is good or this is bad, right? I have no interest in that, right? I know I don't, like, if that's what people want, that's fine. You know, that's their life. They can do whatever they want. But I have no interest in partaking in that, right? Like, that's useless. Like, I care more about, like, actually explaining my point of view and trying to, like, you know, show people, like, you know, why I value these things and those things. But if people don't actually, you know, bother with that, why am I going to spend weeks of my life making that, right? And, like, I'm literally most known now for my tier list videos, and I hate that so much. Like, I hate that. Like one of the first things that comes up if you look into my stuff is tier list, and I'm like, fucking Christ. Like, that's not what I wanted to be known for in the slightest. I know some people actually watch the damn thing, and I appreciate that. That's literally the only reason I might do it someday, is because there are at least some people that are like, oh hey, you know, this was really nice, and I actually, you know, learned some, you know, insight on the units and stuff. That's the only reason I have motivation to make it at all, is because there's some people that actually appreciate what I did and actually get the point of it and actually like the point of it. So it's like, you know, on the one hand I do want to make it because of that, but you know, if people would just like calm the fuck down, you know, I'd get to it eventually. And right now though, it's not happening. Never mind people bugging me, never mind the community. You know, I'm dealing with all this sleep apnea nonsense, and this is pretty life consuming right now. It's like, it's hard enough for me to just, you know, do what I'm doing now. That I'm not even considering it. I'm not even going to consider doing something that stressful and that takes that much time and whatnot when I'm dealing with all this sleep apnea stuff. Because one, that's a good way to kill yourself, and two, it wouldn't be good, right? I'm not gonna make a good video, like those kinds of videos take a lot of planning and timing and testing and bullshit. You know, if I'm dealing with sleep apnea, it's not gonna be good, right? Yeah, because I guarantee you I'm gonna make mistakes anyway. You're never gonna make a video like that and not have at least some mistakes in it, right? It's not gonna be perfect no matter what you do. But if you do it when you're not, like, you know, in good health and everything, like it's gonna be much worse. I would never recommend to anyone watching any of my tier list videos in one sitting. That sounds like an absolutely terrible idea. And like, it's like, I need to explain, I've explained this on my stream before, but I don't think I ever explained it in the video, and I should have. It's like a big thing of like what I want my tier list to be useful for is somebody like for the 1 to 3 star video, this is really what I wanted it to be, like very much so, and I don't think I actually explained it in the video, and I should have done that, but like I want it to be something where it's like, okay, I'm a normal player, you know, I'm leveling up golds that I want and things like that, but I've got gaps in my lineup, right? I don't have a good single target assassin, right? Or I don't have a good buster support, or I don't have a good art support, I don't have a crit support, I don't have a taunt wall, right? And so I want it to be a resource that somebody can be like, okay, so I don't need to level all the 1 to 3 stars to cover every base ever, but I need to level some to cover these bases that I'm lacking, right? Or that, you know, and so like I want it to be like, okay, you know, let me look at, you know, what are the good single target assassins? What are the good AoE assassins? What's the good, you know, that's what I want it to be, right? I don't want people to come out of it and like understand, like if they want to skip to a unit, you know, with the timestamps, you're like, okay, is Fuma worth leveling? What's Fuma about, right? What is he good enough? Like, I mean, I don't need the best silver assassin, but I want a silver assassin that's good, and I like them. Like, which one? How good is my favorite one? Like how useful is this going to be to me? Like, that's what I want it to be used for, right? I don't care about this like penis. You know, oh my god, this unit's the best in the game. See, I said so, right? Like, that's stupid. I don't care about that, right? And that's almost all people want tier lists for. And that's why I've always said, I don't even, like, the tier list doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I rank Robin higher than Uriel or Uriel higher than Robin. What matters is, okay, what does Uriel do? Is this useful to me? Do I need a single target archer that counters male servants really hard? Or do I need an AoE archer? Or do I need a more general use archer? Do I need, like, that's what matters. It doesn't, I don't give a fuck if I rate Sitting Masters slightly higher than Saber Lancelot, right? Because they're both so good, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, what matters is, like, okay, Sitting Master's more aimed at, you know, he's got good crits and good damage, but he's also got this mix of survivability and team survivability, right? And then Lancelot is just pure damage, right? And pure looping and pure crit, right? That's what's relevant between those two. You know, which one's actually better doesn't matter, right? Because it's applicable to you. It's what's relative to you. Like, what do I need? A saber that's nothing but damage, right? Do I need that or not? It doesn't matter if I think, oh yeah, there's slightly more circumstances where Sitting Master's meta than where Lancelot's meta. That doesn't matter, because you might already have a lot of good survivability, and you might have, you know, Merlin and shit. You might have other sabers that have good survivability, and so you'd rather just have someone with LOL big damage, and you work with, you know, art supports because I like art supports, right? That might be what that's relevant, right? That matters. You know, all this e-penis bullshit. It's crazy to me. It was, by the way, this was really funny. Last night, I was getting ready for bed, and I was trying to, like, relax, and I was drinking my tea, right? So I clicked Toho's stream, and he was playing Genshin Impact, right? And he was literally mid-rant, like mid-sentence, of explaining why tier lists in Genshin Impact are completely pointless and stupid and useless, right? And I was like, I relate to this. Lemon tea, which is lemon ginger tea is like my favorite tea because it tastes decent, and then it actually helps with like sinuses and like, you know, chest stuff. So I pretty much drink that the most. It's that and green tea. Because like, I don't think it's as simple as just use your favorites, right? Now in Genshin Impact it kind of is that, but with like FGO, it's kind of a mixture of use your favorites, try to make your favorites work. What kind of units can help make my favorites work, right? So for example, if all your favorites are all DPS and you have no supports, it's kind of a problem, right? So then you kind of need to look at the supports and be like, okay, which out of, even though none of these supports are like my top favorites, which of these are the ones I like the most, and how can I use them to like work with my other units that I really do like, right? Like that's really useful. That's what I do in FGO a lot, is I'm trying to find a balance of units I like with units that work with them, that I still like, and things like that. And every once in a while you get like a, you know, a dream setting where you can literally use nothing but your favorites, you know, like I did that for that the Summer 3 challenge quest, right? That whole thing there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do nothing but units that are like the absolute top of my favorites list. Like, I don't care what the rarity is, I don't care what, like any of that. I was going with my absolute favorites that were at least halfway applicable to the stage. That's why Sanson's not there. Sanson wasn't even remotely applicable to that stage. But you know, that you get to do that every once in a while, and that can be really fun. But normally, if you do that, you're gonna have a you know, a very unfunctional team. So you kind of have to find a mix of things. You know, as a joke, I really should do a color green tier list because I could do it. Dude, you have no idea. I know a lot about the color green, obviously. And like, you know, I've thought through very thoroughly like which shades I like and when I like them, and like how often you see those shades, and you know what other colors they work with, and I've absolutely already thought about all that stuff. Like that's naturally something I've done throughout my life because I really like the color green. So I remember when I was like a teenager, I used to have part of my hair highlighted green because green. I don't really bother with that now because I'm too lazy, but I remember I had a friend that was like, oh, you clearly just do that for the attention, right? Because I was like complaining that I'd get stared at a lot. And I'm like, no, I legitimately do not like the attention that comes from having, you know, highlighted green hair. I just like the color green, right? That was really annoying, like the amount of attention I would get. You know, a lot of it was positive, but like I didn't want it, right? I just like the color green. It's like if you're wearing a green shirt, you don't want people commenting on that constantly, right? I didn't have like full green hair because I don't think that looks good generally. Like it can work in anime, but anime is very different than real life. And in like real life, I much prefer like, you know, most of, like I have very dark hair. It's technically brown, but it looks black. It's like unbelievably dark brown, and then some of it's orange, which is so random. But I apparently had, there's some Irish somewhere in my family tree, and someone had like super red hair or something. But so my hair pretty much looks black, and then so I would just make like, you know, a streak of it green, and that was it. You know, and that I like that, right? Like that's how green looks good. It's a good highlight. If you're wearing a black suit, you wear a green tie. You don't wear a green suit and a black tie. That doesn't work, right? That's too much generally. Occasionally that kind of thing can work. It works with dark green, right? Like dark green can work as like a primary color like that, but like brighter greens, I don't think so. But yeah, that brought a lot of attention, and it was annoying. But it was nice. It was nice to have green hair. But yeah, the main reason I stopped doing it wasn't because of the attention. It was mostly just because I was like, you know, I didn't want to bother. You know, especially right now, I'm a real recluse right now, especially with the pandemic and these last, you know, I don't know, 10 years of my life, really. I don't get out much. So I'm like, what's the point? Because like it's more about like, you know, hanging out with your friends and that kind of thing. But I haven't seen my friends in like forever, right? Like it's been a while. Hopefully that'll change once the really, because now my job is different, right? And I have more free time. Because that was a big thing. Was my old job, I worked at such whack hours that and I couldn't really do anything before or after my job. And I certainly couldn't do anything while I was working, so I didn't really get to do anything. But now that I don't have that job, once the like pandemic's over, if I want to actually see my friends again, I can do that. So I've got the new Saber, by the way. He's fine. Okay. I'm not mad at anyone. People can ask whatever the fuck they want. But I have been asked more about Not Virgil than any other unit I think ever that's been released. That's like new. Other than when the new bronzes came out. But that was understandable. But I am actively confused as to why Not Virgil has. I mean, I have been asked about him like crazy, like on YouTube, Discord, stream. Like, you know, I don't know why. I don't know why there's so much interest there, because it's like, I don't think he's particularly that complicated, right? He's really straightforward. He's a very simple unit, right? He's very good, you know, vanilla is very good a lot of the time. I just don't know why anyone would look at this and be like, man, I wonder how good this is. It's pretty obvious, right? He's like really straightforward, a lot of damage up skills, you know, has crit stuff, and then, you know, typical evade, right? This is very straightforward, right? It's so vanilla. He's like, honestly, I imagine some people are probably disappointed in how vanilla he is, so regardless of how functional he is, because he is very functional, he's very, very good. But I imagine there's some people out there that are like, this is boring. I imagine so that's a thing, but you know, vanilla's good, and I think he's fairly fun to play. So the thing is, I get, it's not that though, because that would. It's not like people don't ask me this much every time a new unit gets added. That's my point. I get some people want my opinion, but you know, people aren't asking me that much about a lot of the, you know, so many new units come out and I get asked almost nothing, right? Where when this guy comes out, it's just like it's crazy. Is it like a hot topic on Discord and Reddit and shit, like him versus Yagyu and shit? Is that going on? I don't get it. Like, I don't know, maybe he's popular. Maybe that's just it. Maybe he's really popular, which that, you know, good. I hope he is popular, because I like him a lot, so I hope he's popular. But it's very strange to me that there's been so much attention around this unit when, because again, I'm not like mad. I just don't understand. I'm just confused why this is the unit that has got people so up in a tuffle or whatever. I don't get it. Yeah, but again, guys, I've been streaming and making YouTube videos for years, right? Do you realize how many new units have come and gone in my time, right? It's not like this happens every time there's a new unit. It doesn't. It absolutely doesn't, right? Like, yeah, I'll probably get asked a little bit, right? But, yeah, I don't know, maybe it's because it's just the Virgil hype. I don't know, like, again, there's nothing wrong with it. I like the unit, right? He's cool, so it doesn't really bother me. It's just, I'm so taken aback, because I've been streaming for so long and I've been making YouTube videos for so long that, and this really stands out. Like, it's not like it stands out a little bit. This is standing out to me massively, like how much I've been asked about him. So I'm like, I'm confused. But yeah, basically he's in between Yagyu and Lancelot. You know, he's got more survivability than Lancelot, but not as much as Yagyu. But he does more damage than Yagyu, but he does less damage than Lancelot, right? So he's literally the in-between of them, which is good. I'm proud of honestly, I'm proud of DW when it comes with balancing these units, right? It was probably an accident, but it's like these two new units are done really well, right? Like, Himiko's good, but she's not broken, right? She's very useful, but she's not replacing people really, right? You know, Not Virgil, same thing, right? He's kind of he's in his own spot. They were kind of lacking that kind of vanilla 4-star art saber. They didn't actually really have that, right? So he kind of fits that really well, but he's not replacing Lancelot or Yagyu, but he can hold his own just fine, right? And even Nobukatsu, same thing. It's like, you know, he's really useful, and he covers some niches that low stars didn't really have covered, but he's not replacing Qin Gong, of course not. He's not replacing Hans. You know, there's going to be times where Nobukatsu's not even good, right? So it's like, all of these new units are designed really well. I think they did a good job. I think, yeah, Castoria could be part of it. But the thing is, everyone's busted with Castoria. There's really no art units, right? Because he is busted with Castoria. If you need single target looping, right? A lot of times you need AoE looping. But if you need single target looping, he's fucking godly with Castoria, because he's got the Star Bomb. You know, he already has insanely good MP gain, and then Castoria makes it even better, right? So he is really busted with Castoria, but so is Lancelot, so is Sitting Master, so is, you know, Geronimo, for God's sakes, to a degree. So it's like, you know, Castoria really good. But yeah, you might be right. That's probably it's because they gave out a bunch of SQ. I have 40 SQ again because I hadn't collected the SQ from the stream on this account, which is weird that I hadn't done that. I just didn't notice. But yeah, when I started this stream, I just had a bunch of SQ in my box, so that's where most of that comes from. And I had some SQ fragments and shit. Dude, I'm serious. Geronimo plus double like Castoria actually does a decent job of like AoE bombing. It's obviously not as good as a lot of other things, but it's good enough. NP refund is just broken, you know, same for Scatty. You know, the NP Foundry meta is way too strong. I actually dislike it. The NP refund meta is like my least favorite thing in this game. Because it's obvious that it was never intended that way. They never designed NPs and like the way NPs function in this game. And they were designing crits, normal cards, skills, NPs. At no point were they like, yeah, you're going to use your NP and get it back from using it. Right? No, that's not supposed to be a thing, right? Like, it blatantly isn't, and it wasn't for many years into the game. Well, actually, TAM pretty early on could do it. Most people didn't realize, but like, double TAM nonsense has been a thing for a while. Anyway, but that was very specific, and you had to, you had to really push for it, right? Now it's like so accessible to do NP refund, and it's like, it's become so standard, and it's really bad. I find it really boring. I think it really takes away from NPs. They're supposed to be your super move, right? Not the thing you do literally every fucking turn and you can just keep getting it with no cooldown. Like, you use NPs more than skills now because skills have cooldowns, and it's that easy to get NPs. That's a big part of why I really like doing budget stuff, is because you can't. You gotta work for it, right? You gotta earn those NPs, and if you do get a quick NP, it comes at a cost, right? If you want to NP immediately on a 1 to 3 star team, that comes with a cost. You're really lowering your like long-term value and things like that, or you're having to bring a very specific unit that might not be right for here, like Billy, right? Like you really gotta work for those NPs on budget teams, and I find that a lot more fun because you gotta plan a bit more. It gives them more weight. You're not just doing them every other turn or every turn, right? So I like that a lot more. I really don't like the NP refund meta. Even for farming, I don't think it's very fun because it's like it's so samey, and to some degree, sameness is okay with farming, but like. It's not like, hey, I found the thing to do for this node and I'm doing it over and over again. It's like I found the thing for almost every node ever made and I'm doing it over and over again. Like that's a bit too much in my opinion. And that's another thing, your deck doesn't matter with NP refund. That's a big thing, right? So like with the deck shuffling and everything, it's like, yeah, I might be able to consistently NP every few turns, but not necessarily every other turn or every turn because the deck's not always going to line up that way. So I can NP often, but not necessarily that often. Where with NP refunding, you don't care what you get with your deck. Actually, I don't think 3-turning helps with sanity that much. I actually think it hurts it for the most part. I think the player base is more burnt out and annoyed than ever because of it. And I've seen some other people talk about this. It's because it's like, okay, this is a thing with the internet. This is just a thing with the internet. Where if something can be known, you're expected to know it. I've seen this with Genshin Impact so much. I haven't looked up a single fucking thing in Genshin Impact. I haven't looked up hidden side quests. I haven't looked up the stam item locations. I haven't looked up hidden chests. You know, because I think that's really counterintuitive to that kind of game. Like, that game is about exploration. Take your fucking time and just enjoy it, right? You know, you gotta, if you blow through it, you're just gonna be waiting for them to add new content. Right? So like, I'm happy to take my time with that game. But I notice so often people are like, have you done this thing? And it's like some hidden nuanced bullshit that of course I don't know about. I'm like, why would I have done that? Right? It's like, but it's because everyone knows it already. Because if it can be known, you are expected to know it, right? That is such a thing with the internet nowadays, right? Like MMOs, phone games, you know, Dark Souls, those things. If it, you know, wow, this guy doesn't know about the Drake sword, right? It's like, it's that kind of thing, right? And so it's like, wow, you're not doing the NP fun meta. Wow, you're not 3-turning this, right? It's like, it's that, and that pressures people into doing that kind of stuff. And they like look up to people that are 3-turning, and so they try to emulate that, and they just get burnt the fuck out. And they're not actually focusing on things that they might actually enjoy otherwise, right? And it's one thing to try to 3-turn, but like, it's kind of nice when like, okay, this is the time to do Spartacus Arash, and then that, and this is the time to do that. But it's like when it's always Castoria or it's always Scatty, you know, it's like it gets to the point where it's like, why am I even doing this? It's like you're farming for the sake of farming, and it gets really stupid. But yeah, that's actually something I really dislike about internet culture. Is like, people think it's weird. People think it's weird if you're wanting to play something blind and you don't want to get spoiled and you don't want to have all the information, you don't want the guide, and you don't want to know the hidden weakness to the boss and that kind of shit, right? It's like, that's so boring. Like, that's so fucking boring. And like, if someone likes that, good for them. But like, I think it's pretty normal to want to just, you know, explore for yourself and learn for yourself and apply your own critical thinking. Because when you always rely on guides and the internet and Reddit and like, oh, someone else figured out this secret, so I'm gonna do it now, right? Like, whenever you do that, you don't actually learn. You're not learning, you're copying, right? And sometimes that's fine, and sometimes you can learn from copying. You might see the principle behind a team setup or something like that. But like in terms of like uncovering hidden secrets and like how the developer, like, you know, their design philosophy is and stuff like that, you're gonna figure those things out a lot better when you like apply your own mind to it, right? And some people don't care about that and they don't really want to, you know, do those things. That's fine. But like I enjoy those things, and I wanna learn, and I wanna, you know, get smarter, and I wanna, you know, that's what I want to do. Like I enjoy that kind of thing. So it's like for me, I don't like looking shit up on the internet and, you know, getting spoiled and everything. I mean, some people, the thing is, it's just, you know, this is my mindset. I'm not saying you have to share my mindset. There's, you know, some people, you know, they're like, I'm never going to find all these secrets, so I just want to know what the secrets are, because it's cool to see what kind of, you know, clever shit the devs did, or I just want to, you know, I want to get my character as powerful as possible, right? Like, that's fine. You know, people have... everyone has their own way of approaching things in their own comfort zone, and what they're actually looking for out of their entertainment or their jobs or whatever, right? And that's totally fine. But I don't resent people having a different mindset than me. I resent them trying to force it on everyone and them acting like it's weird when you don't want to be spoiled and you don't look up everything online and shit like that. That like, it's like, wow, this guy hasn't done, you know, this, you know, whatever the fuck side quest to get the OP, you know, item or whatever. It's like, it's, you know, that's stupid, right? Like, if you want to do that, that's great. You know, have fun. Whatever you enjoy, that's, you know, go nuts. But you should never, like, I would never expect somebody to be, like, doing 1 to 3 star stuff in FGO. I don't watch people's streams like, wow, this guy's not doing 1 to 3 star stuff. Now, there's been times where, like, you're like, wow, I'm finding this too easy and it's kind of boring, and I might recommend, well, maybe try doing it with, like, without waiver. You know, see what it's like then, right? You know, I'm sorry I'll recommend stuff like that, but I'm not like, wow, this guy's using waiver. You know, that's ridiculous. But I see that so much with online culture nowadays. Like, by all means, share your mindset or your, you know, your what you think is, you know, fun, or what, you know, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Like, I encourage that. I love when people share with me like the stuff that they like and why they like it. You know, I don't really like Nero, but you know, I like, you know, if someone likes Nero and, you know, I'm asking them why, well, who's their favorite, and they want to explain why Nero's their favorite. That's great. That's good, right? But it's like, you know, you shouldn't expect other people to have the same values as you all the time, right? Is this thing a good unit? Yeah, that's. If I had known, first of all, I probably would have made I would have got a lot of views, you know, get that ad revenue, right? Like, if I had known this was gonna be such a thing, I would have, I could have gone all clickbaity. I could have, like, day 1 when it came out, I could have made like a thumbnail that was like, "Is he good?" question mark. Like that's in question, right? Like, of course he's good. It's how good is he? Anyway, but you make some bullshit clickbait title like that, right? I probably would have gotten like all the views because there's so much attention on that. Like, seriously, but that's not my kind of content. But seriously, if I had wanted that ad revenue, I could have done that. Like, you know, like I guarantee you that would have done really well with how much like this has been a thing. Dude, I've seen it with Genshin Impact, where I see all these clickbaity titles, where it's like I didn't even watch the video because I don't need to. I know the game well enough that I know that this is bullshit. This was in my YouTube recommended, right? And it was like, you know, don't ruin your account. Like, and it's like, you know, 4 mistakes newbies will make in this game. I'm like, what the fuck? That is so clickbait. Like, there's nothing in Genshin Impact where you're gonna ruin your account because you decided to level up Ember. You can level up whoever the fuck you want. It's easy to level characters. There's literally there's no mistake you can possibly make in Genshin Impact, right? Because anything you do, you can just level up something else instead later, or every boss can be beaten as long as you dodge well, right? It doesn't matter, I don't care. Like, this is such a stupid fucking title. Like, also, I really stand by this. Everyone is always just going, like, it's like a bandwagon that Ember is bad. Ember is not bad. Ember is actually very good, and she's incredibly useful to new players. It's just that the other archers are better at everything, right? That doesn't make someone bad, because you don't have the other archers generally. Like, I agree, Ember is the worst archer in Genshin Impact. I agree with that statement. I do not agree with that means that she's crap. She's still really useful. She can still stun lock a lot of bosses. She still is a ranged option, which you generally don't have otherwise. Her taunt thing is actually really good for certain circumstances, right? You know, having access to fire is obviously good. Like, she's... A lot of accounts, like, I think a lot of people are literally screwing themselves over because everyone hears Ember's bad, so they don't touch Ember. And then they don't have a fire unit, and they don't have an archer. And I'm like, Good fucking job, you moron, right? It's like, it doesn't matter that the other archers are better. What matters is you need an archer and you need a fire unit, right? And that, as a free-to-play, you're not necessarily going to get those things otherwise, right? So Ember is very useful to a lot of fucking people, and acting like she's so bad it's a meme is stupid because she's actually really helpful, right? It's like, and like, just dodge, stupid. It's like the difference between the characters can be completely made up for by being good at the game. So if you like the character, just use the goddamn character. Like, it does not make that big of a difference. It's mostly flavor, for God's sakes. But yeah, oh my god, the clickbait titles in Genshin Impact are insane. And it's because a lot of people get into the game and they've played other games and they're worried about making mistakes and shit. And so, you know, they always, you know, watch that kind of stuff and they listen to the tier lists and everything because they don't want to mess up, and then they end up getting sucked into something that's completely pointless. Because the main thing is, and if you ask someone why Amber is bad, they'll just say it's because all the other archers are way better, right? And they'll be like, oh, she's too slow, and like her skills don't activate immediately and stuff. But that's not actually bad. That's being not as good as something else, right? There's such a difference between that, and I've noticed in gacha games, MMOs, PvP games, you know. And PvP, it makes more sense, right? In a PvP game, it makes sense to figure out what the best in class is because you're directly in competition with other players and you want it to keep up, right? But like and in some single player games, it can make sense to a degree, especially depending on why you're playing. Like for Dark Souls, for example, you know, for a lot of people, they're going to have a hard time with the bosses and whatnot, and so they want to figure out what's, you know, worth doing, right? So that makes a degree of sense. But you don't have that kind of gap in a game like Genshin Impact, right? And what I see is, regardless, it can absolutely be useful to know what the best of something is, right? That can be useful to know, and especially in a PvP game and whatnot. But that makes their barometer like broken. It's that whole IGN effect of like, oh, if it's a 7 out of 10, it's bad. You know, it's that kind of thing, right? That's how I feel about Amber. She's like a 7 out of 10, and that means she's bad, right? It's like that. No, that is well above average, and it's, you know, it's useful and it's good enough, and or in a game context, it can be enjoyable or whatever, right? It's like. So like even in a PvP game, something might have good options and be good, it's just not as good as something else, so it's behind, right? That's different than it actually not functioning and not being able to like capitalize on certain things like that, right? Like so in FGO, there is such a difference between like William Tell, who is overall quite inferior to Robin and Uriel and those kinds of things, right? It's really hard to find uses for him when he's just so similar to them and they're better, right, in most circumstances. But there's such a difference between that and Phantom of the Opera and Jekyll and Hyde, right? That's why William Tell's not super low on my tier list, because yeah, it's not necessarily meta to use him, but he works. It works just fine, right? You can get some nice damage out of him, you can loop out of him, you get some, you know, crits out of him. You know, that's nice. That's a useful functioning unit that can, you know, benefit you, right? Where Jekyll and Hyde is going to drag your team into the abyss, right? There's a very significant difference there. And there's nothing in Genshin Impact like Jekyll and Hyde. The game just doesn't work that way. Yeah, you can eventually get another fire unit with her, but a lot of people aren't going to do the abyss right away to unlock her, so they're going to have a good chunk of time where they're not going to have any fire unit. So I still stand by it. And again, a lot of people aren't going to have an archer. I don't have another archer. Like literally, she's my only archer. It's the only one. And I have one other fire unit. So she obviously is very useful to me. Like, yeah, she's not as useful. Oh yeah, I have D-Loop, right? There's that. But that's not normal. that's not normal. Just reroll for D-Loop, guys. It'll be fine. Forehead. Yeah, the freebies cover all your options, and they did that. Well, actually, I think there's one real gap in Genshin Impact with how they handled freebies, and that's a wind unit, because you get to the point where you need to have the Earth MC for like everything ever, and then you don't have a wind unit, and then you have to go back to a shrine and switch your main character back to a wind unit, right? That's really annoying. They should have given you a regular wind unit. Yeah, because they do not give you a free wind unit, and so if your MC is lightning, because later on you're going to be able to do lightning like the next area probably, or fire or earth or whatever, you're not going to have a wind unit at all. So hopefully they fix that at some point. Yeah, they'll probably give other freebies out. As time goes on, they'll probably add other freebies. I would say that about FGO too, but FGO doesn't seem to like welfares anymore. But dude, God, they compile like how many welfares we get per year, and like it's literally getting less and less. It's like, what the fuck is happening? Game make money, get less things out of it. Okay. And then half the welfares we get are just done so badly, dude. The Fate Requiem event, dude. Nice animations, holy shit. Break your leg. See, I don't care that Venti is high tier. I don't like him very much, and I don't need to be high tier in that game, so I'm not even tempted to roll for him. Like, it is so easy to operate in that game without having high tier stuff. It's so easy to operate in that. It's way more about just, you know, level your gear properly and play well and shit like that. So it's so silly, dude. Like, I'm literally handicapping myself like crazy in that game to make the game harder. Because it's just, by default, it's not gonna be that big of a deal. I just use keyboard and mouse. I'm actually pretty good with aiming with a controller though, and that's because I grew up playing games like Halo and shit. I find the biggest mistake, I've seen this, and this is not everyone, but I've seen this countlessly, and my brother did this and all kinds of shit, because my brother did not grow up using controllers, and so he had a hard time getting used to controllers, so he needed to use them. Is when they try to aim, they almost entirely will aim with the right stick. You know, I literally have a controller in my hand right now, right? So they'll try to aim entirely with the right stick. And if you try to do like really nuanced small adjustments, that doesn't work very well. They're trying to emulate the mouse with the right stick is what they're trying to do, right? But a controller is fundamentally different than a keyboard and mouse. And what you need to do to like get precise aiming, when you watch people that, you know, because there are people that like, they'll have like, you know, games that are like esports scenes that are controller only, and like the game's only on console or something, and you'll see the best players, and they are using controllers, and they're doing incredibly precise things. And it's because what they're generally doing is they're combining the movement of the left stick and the right stick to using them in combination. Like sometimes you'll move left and point your aim right, and that can kind of make a nice middle ground, you know, motion and things like that. You do shit like that with controllers to get more nuanced aiming. Now, aiming with a mouse is objectively better than aiming with a controller. This is an objective thing, right? Like, now you may not be used to it, so you may not perform as well with a mouse as you would with a controller, but a mouse is objectively better for aiming, right? But you personally may not perform better with it. But anyway, but you can get a lot of precision out of a controller. And yeah, because I grew up, you know, playing, you know, a lot of like stuff with a controller, I've never had difficulty aiming with a controller. I know how to do like a lot of like nuanced movement with the controller, and it's quite easy for me to do precise things with it. So it's never bothered me. But it's one of those things where it's like, so I've known people it's the other way around, where they never use keyboard and mouse, and they start trying to play with keyboard and mouse, and because it's just so different to them, and they're so behind on the learning curve that it's really awkward for them, and they'd rather use a controller, right? So you can go both ways. Thankfully, I've kind of always used both. I've always used keyboard and mouse, and I've always used controller. That both of them are pretty natural to me. I actually will say for first-person shooters, I'm probably better with a controller than I am with keyboard and mouse, because when I was younger, I never really played first-person shooters with keyboard and mouse. It's only something I've done when I'm older, and so I've never been as good at keyboard and mouse with that kind of thing. But there are other genres of game that I've almost always played with keyboard and mouse that I'm way better at, and in some games it doesn't matter very much, so it kind of just depends. But yeah, I've seen people set up Arbor to do damage, which is kind of funny, actually. I've basically not rolled a Genshin Impact. I did the 2 beginner rolls and I've never rolled again. I'm just stockpiling. But I can't wait to actually roll, because I'm hoping to get some of the random 4 stars that look like it. Like the one, I want the chick that counters the most. That's such a unique gameplay style. You know, being able to block. I want her pretty much more than anything. So whenever I get around to rolling, I really hope I get her. I just hope they add more guys though, and I want them to add more people that aren't like models. All the guys and girls all look like models, right? And that's fine, but I would like some like, you know, bandit looking guys, armored guys, you know, a variety, you know, give me like Darius or something, right? Give me Ivan, right? FGO is definitely a million times better when it comes to the variety in character designs. I'm actually surprised. I see so many people like, oh yeah, you play Genshin Impact for the waifus. I don't get that. Now, I know that's not really I don't play any games for those reasons, and so I'm not in my element there. But I'm confused. That doesn't, from the outside looking in, Genshin Impact does not look like a game that would be particularly hype if you're wanting to play for just them waifus. Because it doesn't actually have that many, and again, there's not that much variety in the designs. So I'm like, you know, it honestly just seems way more about like the boss fights and the exploration. Big focus on the exploration. So I think the draw would be that. I don't get it. Like if I compare, you know, again, I'm not an expert in these matters, but like from what I've seen of the community and everything, it's like if you're wanting to go pure waifu mode, surely the other games are better. Like I feel like a lot of the other games out there do better with that. Like, cause Genshin Impact's cast is pretty small, right? And the like again, the variety's not very big. So I find that's odd to me that would be like a huge selling point of that game. I wouldn't think it would be a negative. Like I'm not like, oh yeah, no one's gonna find these characters attractive, right? I just don't see it as like some massive like I don't feel like if you were gonna if I was gonna expect like the community, like the nerd community, the anime community or whatever, to like rate the waifus in these games and make like a tier list of best waifus from like which games overall have the best waifus, I don't feel like Genshin Impact would do very well. Like I don't feel like it would hold up to a lot of like you know FGO and Azure Lane and Grand Blue and all those things, right? Like, and again, this is not my area of expertise, but what I've seen of the community, I'm surprised. I've seen so many people like, oh yeah, man, Genshin Impact's got them top tier waifus. I'm like, does it? Like, I'm kind of confused by that. Yeah, I know. I've said that a million times that it's more like Dragon's Dogma. I really stand by that. It is so much more like Dragon's Dogma than Breath of the Wild. And honestly, for Zelda games, why can't this be my main account? Why can't I could use a CE drop on my main account, right? Because I'm gonna have to do the challenge quest or whatever. God, fuck it. Anyway, for Zelda games, I tell you the game that in terms of, I'm not talking about aesthetic. I'm not talking about that surface level trash. I'm talking about design, game philosophy, right? That's what I'm talking about, the meat of the game. The Zelda game that it's most like is fucking Wind Waker. I stand by this so much. And people are like, but Wind Waker, you're sailing all the time. No. Again, that's surface level stuff. The style of exploration that you do in Genshin Impact is like fucking Wind Waker. Wind Waker is so much like, because Wind Waker is not really an open world game, right? It's got a lot to explore and stuff, but it's all these self-contained areas that you explore, right? It's not like Skyrim where you like get out of jail and it's like you can go every direction ever, right? That's absolutely not how Wind Waker is like, and that's not how Genshin Impact is like. It's way more about like, oh, you find this island and you thoroughly explore this island, right? That's how Wind Waker is, and that's a lot more how Genshin Impact is, where the world map in Genshin Impact is not very big. It isn't. That's why it's also a lot more like Dragon's Dogma, right? It's more about these set landmarks and these set areas. You kind of like you come across like water runs and you explore that for a good chunk, right? It's like these areas you explore in chunks, kind of, and it's like finding little puzzles in them and stuff like that. Wind Waker is a lot more self-contained like that. It's not. Wind Waker is not nearly as massive as Breath of the Wild. It's not even close. Like, there's a lot of open space with all the water, but that's nothing, right? That's really travel distance. That doesn't mean anything, right? Like, the actual open worldness of Wind Waker is significantly smaller than Breath of the Wild, and the same for Genshin Impact. The actual amount of open worldness, is so much smaller than Breath of the Wild. And same for Dragon's Dogma. Dragon's Dogma is much smaller in terms of like how much stuff there is and how big the world is and stuff compared to Breath of the Wild. Like everyone like surface level compares it to Breath of the Wild because Breath of the Wild is like it's more recent and relevant in people's minds, and then they've got like the glider and shit, so it's like it's all these like surface level comparisons. But in terms of like actual design philosophy and like the way they want you to like traverse the world and the kind of like level design they want you to interact with, it's a lot more like Dragon's Dogma, and it's a lot more like Wind Waker, and it's fine. It doesn't matter if games are similar to each other. It's just what annoys me is people are making a really shitty comparison because they see like, you know, surface level graphics in fucking a glider and they're like, oh my god, this makes games really similar. Well, yeah, obviously more people played Zelda than Dogma. I agree with that. Dogma actually didn't do so hot, which is a shame. I mean, Dogma has some problems. It really does. There's a lot of unique stuff in Dogma. It's like, wow, these were some really good ideas, like with the climbing and everything. But like, there's definitely some execution problems in Dogma. There's some real issues in that game. But you know, if you're able to look past its problems and focus on the areas where it is kind of a gem, I really do like Dragon's Dogma. That is a really awesome game, and I especially like the Dark Arisen content, which is very different from the base game, but is awesome. So. I mean, people are very childish. People are so childish. Like, I've seen, and this is something I used to be kind of like this to a degree. I don't think, when I was younger, I don't think I was bad as people are now, but when I was a teenager, you know, you have this, like, idiot mindset of, like, everything's like a war, right? You gotta have your console, you know, you can't like both consoles. You know, I remember there was like a real, like, I remember when Gundam Seed came out, there was all these like other people that liked, you know, the original Gundam and like Gundam Wing, like, oh, this Gundam is just like a disgrace to Gundam because it's like, it's kind of like them but different and I don't like that, right? It's stupid, right? Like, people were literally not liking something just because they think it's similar to something else but it's not that thing and therefore it's like insulting or something. That's fucking stupid. Like, that's such a stupid mindset, right? Like, and it's like console wars. Like, oh, you know, I'm an Xbox kid, right? You know, fuck PlayStation. That's stupid. It's a fucking piece of hardware. It's a piece of fucking hardware, right? It doesn't matter, right? A games stand on their own. It doesn't matter what piece of hardware they're on. That's dumb. Like, what matters is design philosophy, the you know, implementation of things, gameplay, you know, music. These things are, you know, actually have like matter. It doesn't matter what console you're on. It doesn't matter if these things have similar graphics. And it's like way back when Doom, like, this literally has been going on for like all of human history. You know, when Doom. And, you know, Doom was a rip-off of you know, it was like an evolution, if you will, of, what do you call it, Wolfenstein, right? And that's fine. That's what, you know, that's what moved the genre forward. And then Doom got popular, and everyone started making games really similar to Doom. And then now we have an entire genre of first-person shooter that's based on that. That's fine, right? People get so anal and butthurt because, oh my god, Doom was popular and now other people are making games from the first person perspective where they explore labyrinths and shoot things, right? Oh no, right? It's just silly. Like stop being so defensive, right? If you like Breath of the Wild, that's great. Genshin Impact doesn't matter. It doesn't make Breath of the Wild, it doesn't evaporate. It doesn't get, Breath of the Wild doesn't get Thanos snapped because someone else made a game that has gliders in it. Like, and it's just so stupid because it's not like Breath of the Wild was the first open world game that had gliding, right? And had a bright world and had an open world. Like, it's just insane to me that people act like Breath of the Wild was some kind of like new unique thing when it's so not, right? Now, it's unique in like, you know, like Nintendo's way of approaching some of it and stuff like that, and that's great, right? But like, there's nothing unique about Breath of the Wild, not even remotely, and that's okay. Now, of course, they don't use the same game engine. Jesus Christ. Unless Nintendo is suddenly using Unreal or something, some generic model like that I'm unaware of, but I don't think Nintendo generally uses like the generic game engines. I would imagine with the way Nintendo is, they make their own game engines and whatnot. But there's a lot of game engines out there that are just generic game engines that, you know, millions of developers use. They're like designed to be used by different developers. They're not like in-house engines that aren't shared, right? That would obviously be a problem if you had like a developer, and this actually has happened and it has resulted in lawsuits. This is very rare because it's very hard. But like, you'll have, okay, I mean, yeah, it's just made in Unity. That's just a generic engine. That's nothing. But like, so there have been cases where you have a developer that has an in-house engine that is, you know, copyrighted and all that kind of stuff, and it's not supposed to be shared, and like somehow like an employee gets it or it gets leaked, or then like other companies steal it, right, and then they make their game based on someone else's in-house engine. That's literally illegal, right? And that's happened before. But like, it's normally when you have different games using the same game engine, it's because the developers, you know, lawfully shared it, or it's a generic game engine like Unreal or Unity or something like that, and those are literally engines that are made to be used by other people, right? So yeah, like if Genshin Impact literally snuck into Nintendo's offices and stole their in-house engine and started using it without telling anyone, that's obviously illegal and would be that would be a lot of reason to shit on the game. But they didn't do that, and of course they didn't do that because almost no game does that, and that's happened like literally 1 or 2 times in gaming history. And what most developers do if they have an in-house engine is they'll license it, you know, for a fee if people want it. But normally rarely do game developers actually want other developers' in-house engines because they're normally tailored to the kind of, you know, what they're making. Like you don't want I think Dark Souls used to be like an in-house engine. And you know, it was shite for one, and two, it was, you know, tailored to specifically what they were doing. So it's like that wouldn't even be useful to very many people. I know people just want to hate Genshin Impact, right? They want to act like it's this rip-off game, which is just not, and it's stupid. And if there's things you don't like about it, that's fine. But being a fucking adult and like articulate things you don't like about it as a game. Like, oh, I don't like its pacing. You know, I think it you know, it doesn't have enough. You know, the pacing is really slow, or it's too fast, or I don't like the puzzles, or I think the combat's boring, or like I don't use enough mechanics, or, you know, like there's things you can actually criticize, right? But be a you know, use your brain and use your words. Don't be like, oh, it's a Breath of the Wild ripoff when you couldn't even articulate what is actually unique about Breath of the Wild, right? Like it's ridiculous, dude. Oh yeah, Havoc. I've heard of that before. Honestly, I mean, I didn't know. I never looked, but I just expected Nintendo to use an in-house engine because a lot of developers like them would. So I'm kind of surprised they don't. But I mean, I'm well aware of the controversy around Genshin Impact, and I'm literally saying why it's bullshit. The same thing with like I talked about this yesterday. Everyone acting like it's spyware. It's literally not spyware. The people that think that have no technical knowledge at all. And they're just latching on to something someone else said, and they're like, oh, see, it's spyware, and it's not. Like, it's literally just your typical anti-cheat, and it wasn't working properly, and they immediately patched it, and now it is working properly now. And it wasn't sending information to begin with. And newsflash, almost everything that you have is sharing your data to some degree. Everything. That's not unique to China. That's not unique to free games. That's not unique to Facebook. Facebook is obviously probably one of the most extreme examples of it. But I mean, welcome to the modern era. And people have this idea that, like, you know, data tracking is like people spying on, like, you know, you personally. It's not. It's about group statistics. That's like entirely what it is. And that's been going on for so many years and almost everything you've been doing in your entire life. And then people get like a whiff of it and they think they're Sherlock Holmes. It's kind of ridiculous. Honestly, I just find this whole Genshin Impact controversy pathetic. Like, I don't think the game's perfect at all. Like, I've criticized the shit out of it, right? Like, I can have a laundry list of things I don't like about it. But, you know, I'm giving it, you know, at least the benefit of the doubt because it's new. So, you know, I'm giving it a second, right? But like, most of the criticisms I see are just so frivolous. And it's just that console war mentality of, oh my god, Sony sucks, Microsoft rocks, or vice versa. Can we talk about FGO now? And thank you for the raid, man. So, I probably have done this stage too many times. Really, I need to play my main account because, to a degree anyway, because I do need a CE drop on my main. I'm really salty that I got a CE drop on this newbie account because it doesn't really need it. But I mean, it's better than not getting it at all, but... Yeah, I don't know if he leveled his evade or he got lucky there. I don't know. There are times, people have tested this, sometimes the enemies have level 10 skills. Normally they're level 8, but sometimes they do have level 10 skills. There doesn't seem to be extreme consistency with that. I have a little bit of Fate merch, and it was given to me by Ziggy. He mailed it to me. It was rather nice of him. I got a coup, like, I don't know what to call it. Just like, it's a plushie or something, but I got that, and then I got like a coup keychain, which is kind of nice. So that was very nice of him. And he also gave me stuff to give to Cairo, which I was supposed to give to Cairo when Cairo visited me, but but Cairo hasn't been able to visit me because of many reasons, and then coronavirus and everything, so I haven't actually given him that stuff yet. But one of these days, at this point I might just have to mail it to him, but Yon's evade is really good when it's max level because it's a guaranteed evade, it's guaranteed taunt, and then you get the battery. It's great. I'm not a big person in merch and swag and whatnot. It's just not, it's never really, you know, I don't mind it. I'm not insulted by it or anything. It's just not, you know, really appealed to me too much. But I really appreciate what Ziggy gave me. That was just a nice gesture, so. They're literally on my desk, like right next to me. Okay, I needed those like brown sticks, which I have a decent amount of now. So now we need clay, I think. I should probably do the main ones because I'm mainly just like on this account. I don't care too much, but I mainly want to unlock like just get. I don't care if I literally on this account I do not care if I finish the event, but what I care about is getting you know the golem cores and void dust. So. Like, I just like this event so much that I don't think I'm going to complete it on very many accounts. I'll probably complete it on my main, but other than that, probably not too much. I don't remember what class drops clay. I have no idea. I think most of them are class-based. Might be caster, just because they seem to like make it the counter class for these stages. No, caster drops like the brown sticks. Whatever, I'll just get the mat. Bring green or gold. I want to unequip these so I can figure out who fucking gives the clay thing. There we go. I guess it's assassins. That's weird that it's assassins for this stage. I should summon an assassin though. I literally don't care about like speed efficiency here at all, especially not on this account. I'm not sure I'm gonna have anyone else on this account that gives clay boosts. Oh, she does, okay. I wonder if she gives clay specifically, or if she gives like one of each. That would be amazing if Mash gave one of each. Nope, okay. Well, good enough. Oh, he does give one of each? Oh, nice. That'll make brainless farming so much easier then. Just slap him on every team and be happy with it. I'm really looking forward to... I want story replay so bad because I want to test Nobukatsu out really bad, but he is so aimed at challenge quests, right? Which is fine. I like units that are aimed at challenge quests, but we don't have any right now, and we haven't had any in a long time. And then, you know, who knows, the next couple challenge quests just might not be up his alley, right? Especially from a budget standpoint, because you're going to use him when your DPS is a buster. And, you know, you may be favoring Ushi or Ku or something, right? And they're quick, so... And there's a certain style of fights that, you know, call for, like, taunt and those kinds of things. So I want to test those kinds of things. I want to test, like, okay, this is the time you want to use Bedivere or Mori or someone, you know, a buster DPS, you know, budget buster DPS. But yeah, there's no story replay, so I can't test any of that. Imagine having story replay in 2020, I know, right? Also, this isn't going to be a particularly good time to test him anyway. Well, I guess him being a bonus servant is so irrelevant. It means nothing. Like, oh man, the 1-star that's got no DPS for himself personally does more damage. Big deal. I mean, it depends on what you're testing. There's unfortunately no, like, go-to, this is a good place for testing. Like, are you testing damage? Are you testing survivability? Are you testing solo ability? Are you testing synergy? Like, one of my go-to places is the dragon, right? The million HP dragon. That's been a good spot because he just has a lot of health. But, you know, he's an AoE boss. A lot of bosses aren't AoE, so, like, that's not going to test everything that you want to be able to test. So, I mean, unfortunately, there is no go-to place. It just depends on what the hell you're doing. And sometimes it literally is no stage that's good for testing certain things. Like, right now, the only stage I can really think of that could be potentially replayable on, like, some of my accounts that would be good for testing Nobukatsu is, like, at the Abigail fight. That could be the Abigail fight from Salem would be a good one, but I've only got that saved on an A, and obviously Nobukatsu doesn't exist on an A, so that doesn't help me, right? But yeah, it just depends. If you're just wanting to test like straight, you know, value, a lot of times there's like 1,000,001 places you can test that, right? And if you're wanting to test, you know, like how good they are at soloing, you know, like the dragon works really well, things like that, and you got. But like the standout stages that I can think of that it's worth saving for everyone, just because they have uses for some things, is like Mordred's Interlude. You know, you don't need to beat it to get her strengthening quest. You don't need to, right? And you can save that fight with Lancer or Toria, where that has multiple health bars, right? She doesn't have loads of health, so it's not like the best place ever, but I mean, if you wanted to make it harder, you could test a neutral unit there, right? And then that's pretty decent. You know, testing a Saber there, it's like okay, but like it's kind of easy because the boss only has like 700k health or something. But so that's an easy one to save. You get nothing for beating it. You get 1 SQ for beating it, right? So what'd you rather have? A break bar, Lancer boss fight, you know, forever, or 1 SQ, right? So it's up to you on that one. The Gilgamesh Dragon is really worth saving, but I feel like a lot of people that have Gilgamesh are going to want to, you know, they're going to want to obtain Gilgamesh's strengthening quest. I have it because I have Gilgamesh on multiple accounts, and so, you know, my main, you know, I don't need to get that strengthening quest, so I can keep that easily. What about, I don't remember, does the Dion one, do you need to do the Dion one for his upgrade or anything like that? I'm thinking you might not. So the Dion one's okay. You know, it's against an AoE boss and it's very low attack stat, so it's not good for testing everything, but it's good for like some straight value stuff. Yeah, I stand by this so hard. Everyone should save the Asterios Uriel fight. There's no reason not to save it. You don't need to beat it to get the Grail, right? For those who don't know, when you beat Salem, if you beat one of the free quest nodes, it'll unlock like a hidden story chapter. You know, you have to have already beaten Salem, right? And so it's a hidden main story chapter when you do this free quest. And then once you beat that story chapter, it's gone forever, right? It's treated like a typical main story chapter. All you get for beating it is 1 SQ. That's it. It doesn't unlock anything. It's not needed for interludes. It's not needed for strengthening quests. I would, and that it's a Salem. No, not Salem. No, yeah, it's Salem. It's Salem. There's a fight at the end of that stage, like that node, where you fight Uriel with a break bar and Asterios with a break bar. Like, overwhelmingly, even if you don't care about saving stages too much, I recommend saving that one. It's just 1 SQ. It's just nice to have the access to that stage. Again, it's not the world's hardest stage or anything, but it can still be handy for testing different things. Very much so. And like, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to have a specific unit. It's not an interlude for like Mordred or something, right? Anyone has it. The reward is just 1 SQ. Like, who gives a fuck? So yeah, you should definitely save that one. Yeah, I'm always on the lookout for that kind of stuff because, you know, if the reward is nothing, you know, it's not a grail, it's nothing, it's not blocking your progress, I pretty much will always save it. Coup Altar interlude. I don't have Coup Altar, so let me look. It doesn't have any strengthening quests right now, so it's easy to save it, so that's nice. I mean, these aren't, I mean, their health on these is so low, it's better than nothing, sure, but I mean, these are kind of nothing fights. Like, first off, there's random trash mobs first, and then, I mean, the enemies have 50k health and 70k health, right? Like, that's kind of nothing. Like, you know, if you want to save it just cause, why not? But I mean, I wouldn't really use this stage for anything. The stats are just so low and everything. Like, even the Saber Altar one. It's cool. I guess the final one's okay, because Hercules has that guts thing. That's kind of cool. But still, the stats are pretty low. But yeah, the Hercules one's okay, because of the guts thing. There's some fun stuff you could do there. Like, if I had Coup Altar, I probably would save that stage, just because there's no benefit to beating it, so might as well save it. The thing is, it doesn't block you from doing that free quest. You don't have to do that stage to get the free quest. It's actually the other way around. You have to do the free quest to get the main story stage, so... Yeah, this event's trash, dude. It's so boring. It's tedious and boring. Terrible combination. No boss fights. Like, it's just nothing. This is nothing event. Like I said, I want to go play the main story on this account instead, but I want to at least unlock some of the nodes that give, you know, the useful mats that the account needs. Hey Marps, what's up, man? I think I might have said that twice. It's kind of out of it there for a second. Trying to focus on too many things at once. I'm gonna BRB real quick. I need to fix T. I could use that right now. Yeah, the raids could be good. We'll see. But a lot of times raids are crap too. Just depends. Fuck, I just remembered the command codes! I have to, like, do it on every account ever! Why can't this be a fun event like Good of Final? Chat, I just realized, which you may have heard, that this event has really good command codes in it. And I need to do it on all my accounts now. I am so mad. I am so mad. So this is what I'm gonna do. On like my regular old ult account, I'm just gonna make the most broken 3-turn setup I can, and just autopilot the shit out of farming. I don't even care if I'm bringing the right bonus stuff, and I'll just do that on the side when I'm doing other things, and just get the main story done, and just buy the command codes. And on my main account, I'm gonna actually do the event because I have to. And I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do on the 1 to 3 star account. I'm so mad. I want to just get this event so bad. But those command codes, like that 5-star command code is way too good to pass up. Alright, that's so fucking good. Like, oh my god, I put that on Billy. Like, that's so good. Yeah, most of the command codes do look pretty easy to get. And I need to get oh god, I need to get a CE drop on my ult. Because if I want to do a budget setup for the challenge quest, you know, I'm going to summon my ult account and I need this 2 CEs and blah 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 blah. That's good for Kanish too, actually, absolutely. Oh, the horror. Alright, let me get the oh, I killed the music, whoops. Really good to go AFK and have no music playing. That's how you entertain the stream right there. I'm really good at this, by the way. I've only been doing it for like, you know, 2 years or something. Maybe the final main story boss will be good. That's happened before. I don't know though. I think this is Fuyuki locked. So I think the main story, like the final main story boss, is gonna be a joke. It is Fuyuki locked. Yeah, I figured. I didn't check, but I literally didn't check. And all my accounts are, you know, have beaten 1.0 and shit. But like, it's just whenever they make an event this much of a joke, it's got to be like Fuyuki locked or Septum locked or some crap like that. Also, what's going on with the story? I haven't looked into the story for this one. Like, why is MASH, like, in some parts she's regular MASH, in some parts she's VR MASH? Like, I'm kind of curious where the hell this takes place timeline-wise. Because a lot of Fuyuki locked events take place in like an undisclosed period of time before the Lost Belts, right? I think some of them, like, that are Lost Belt locked and things like that are just, you know, sometime during the Lost Belt shenanigans. Yeah, it's true, Laws. That might happen. We'll see. Dude, that Luvia stage. I've like never wanted to save a stage so much in my life. Now, like that Luvia stage wasn't like the hardest story boss fight ever. Like, of course not. It wasn't, but it was so good for testing. That was literally the best stage ever for testing. She had rather high normal card damage. Like, so she's on par with like a normal boss, right? So if you have taunts or you want to do lots of defense stuff, you can test that, right? Because her normal card damage was quite high. And then she had quite a bit of health. And then her gimmick was she made everything neutral no matter what. You could not counterclass her, period, right? So that basically essentially made her health bar much bigger. And so it was just, that was such a good testing ground. She hit hard, she had loads of health. You could test every class against every class. You could, you know, do whatever kind of setup you wanted. I wish that stage was like just like fucking give me story replay for fuck's sakes, dude. It was in Atlantis. It was like in the middle of Atlantis or something. Yeah, when you go to like, you know, Luvia's island, you know, she like tests you or some shit. Yeah, she was like 600k and some change or something like that. And I remember we were testing with all the big boy solo units, and you know, a decent number. Anyone that was like a you know, pretty solid solo unit could solo it. But you had to at least be that, right? Like, you could not, it was somewhat difficult to solo, so it was good for testing solo, but it was super good for just testing straight value and damage numbers and killing taunt walls and crap like that. Like, a big part of what really helps make testing worth testing is when the boss actually hits hard. Because it allows you to, one, be threatened by normal card damage, like you would be in a regular fight. And it allows you to kill off taunt walls, or buff cycle with Poster Girl, or whatever, if you're wanting to do stuff like that as well. So it's like, that's a big part of helping out with testing, is having a boss that actually hits hard enough to matter. And it costs 5 AP, yeah, that too. Yeah, that stage is god tier. Like, just give me it back, game. I swear, if they ever add story replay, it'll be overwhelming how much fun stuff you have to mess around with. You can do team stuff, solo stuff, gimmick stuff, video stuff. Like, the options would be amazing. Edmund's okay. Edmund's an okay one. Edmund's got there's a few reasons Edmund's not the best thing ever for testing. He actually hits too hard. He hits way harder than, like, for normal card damage than a typical boss does. Like if he happens to Buster Crit, he'll pretty much one-shot anything. And there are some bosses like that, but that's pretty rare. So he's a little too hard. But he is decent. But I actually don't have him on my main account. I should get it though. I keep planning on making. I'm on the stage right before him, and I keep planning on making a video for that, and I just don't. But that stage is pretty decent actually. But yeah, he hits a little too hard, and then his NP is also a nightmare. And yeah, you have to beat that Edmund to unlock the boss rush, which kind of sucks. So you kind of have to pick which one you want. At least it's a thing though. I actually forget about that Edmund stage a lot, which is a huge mistake. And it's mainly because I don't have it on my main. I only have it on my ult. I need to fix that. I was originally going to have the boss rush on my main and the regular Edmund fight on my ult, but I don't know. Like, I feel like the boss rush is so specific. You know, it's for a very specific thing, and it's a fun fight, right? But I don't know. My main has the most options, so I could approach it the most ways. But the other Edmund fight is definitely better for like testing things. I'm not sure what my favorite stage would be, to be honest. I mean, that Luvia one would be really nice, but there's some pretty awesome stories. I mean, you got Zeus and Demeter, you know, Gwen, all those things. You got the obvious stuff, but there's, you know, so you know what I kind of want to do, chat. After my trauma, I kind of want to go. If they had a story replay, I'd like to use my main, and I would not handicap myself, but I would still mostly use my favorite characters. I wouldn't use, you know, just like OP shit. But I would go murder Lee students. I would just absolutely just shred that stage, like no mercy. Like that was so much bullshit on the 1 to 3 star account. And it was mainly the CEs, dude. The fucking 3-star CEs. I'm gonna bring like all 5-star CEs. I'm just, oh my god. Bring like Ivan or something to do the buff removal too. That'd be pretty funny. No, that stage is not the hardest in the game at all. Not even close. It's just disproportionately difficult if you're doing 1 to 3 star units and CEs. It's not even close to the hardest. It's one of those kind of stages that disproportionately affects certain things. I don't think it's even remotely the hardest. And it's not like it's the only thing we got stuck on. We were stuck on Horsebindo and Landling, you know, Pretty Boy way longer. I was stuck on lead students in like in time longer, but that's because I wasn't even trying it. You know, we got there and we just stopped playing for a while, right? Yeah, Amakusa. Oh god, yeah. Where when we were on Horsebindo and Landling, we were just doing it over and over and over and over and over and trying like every little thing, and like even leveled up some different units, and you know that was definitely been the hardest so far for that account. But the hardest stage, like for main story, I think the hardest stage overall, and again, there's so many things where it's like, oh, but if you happen to have these units on your account, then it's not going to be the hardest, right? But I think the hardest stuff in the game right now, for most players in the main story, would be Zeus, Demeter, and like, you know, that assassin fight, and Raiko and Shoten. Like, those 4 really stand out to me. And Lee too. I mean, regular old Lee is pretty fucking tough, I would think. But yeah, Zeus and Demeter are pretty tough, right? Like, mechanically and everything. The thing that makes them maybe less noticeable, though, is because they're later into the game. So you're more likely to be a bit more prepared by the time you get to them. But when you actually put everything side by side, those things really stand out. No, and I don't think Elite Students is a joke or anything. Elite Students is definitely difficult for a lot of people. But I think there's a lot of stuff that makes that fight really easy. And you have access to your support list. That's the thing, right? For like Demeter, you don't get your support list. Where if you're struggling with Elite Students, you just summon a friend's Amakusa and there you go. Or Ivan, or Sherlock, or like, you know, there's a lot of things you could do that's like, okay, no problem. I agree though, if you have no support list and you're not using like, you don't happen to have some of the really high-end golds, then that stage can definitely trip you up. I'm sure people have gotten to that stage and they just don't have access to units that are particularly good for that stage, and no one on their friends list happens to have things like Kamakusa or whatever, and they really struggled with these students. I'm sure that's absolutely happened, but I doubt that's like, I'm sure people have struggled with other stages more. Like, there's more people that have struggled with other stages more. The thing that really helps with Demeter And she is hard. Absolutely she is hard, but I think she's slightly overrated. I think she is one of the hardest story bosses, but I think people act like she's a bit harder than she is, even so. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that she follows a set pattern and she's incredibly predictable. I really like that about that fight. That fight is very hard, but it's not like you're rolling the dice, right? Like, she follows a very strict pattern with what skills she casts in what order, right? And because she's AoE, it's not like it's random who she kills. You know what kind of damage is coming at you every turn. You know when she's MPing, you know when she's defense upping. It's all very boom, boom, boom. So it's all about, you know, you get to be very strategical about it, which I really like. Now, it is very hard, obviously. You know, it does demand a lot of you, and you don't have access to a support. So if you're a weaker account, you know, you don't got all the Merlin, you know, scatty, you know, bullshit, you know, it's gonna be tough, absolutely. But I think a lot of people don't recognize that she's actually following such a strict pattern, and she's so predictable, and her damage output is so predictable. A lot of people don't realize that, and they don't capitalize on it, right? They don't try to manipulate things to take advantage of that kind of thing. Do you think the Guildfest CQs are harder than the story fights? It depends on which CQs and which story fights. I mean, it's like, because some of the CQs aren't that bad, right? But then some of them are really bad, and the same for main story fights. Like, I think Zeus is harder than most of the Guildfest. Like, okay, so Guildfest 1. Let's do Guildfest 1, right? I think Zeus and Demeter, for most players, are going to be harder than any of the Guildfest 1 challenge quests. The one that's the closest, and depending on what you personally have, may be harder and maybe easier, would be Taiga. Right, like depending on what kind of units you have, Taiga might end up being harder than Zeus and Demeter, but she also might end up being easier depending on what you have. But in terms of like the value they're calling for, the gimmicks and everything, I would say Zeus and Demeter are harder than most of Guildfest 1. But again, I think it's really going to come down to units. You know, Taiga really calls for kind of specific styles of units to do well there. And so a lot of people just get fucking tanked by Taiga, right? But honestly, I think if you know how to fight it, it's not that bad, because again, you get the support list against Taiga, right? So you can summon like a really strong AoE Lancer like Parvati, and then just have your own cleanup unit, like a good Saber or a good Berserker to finish off Taiga at the end. And that's not that hard to do. That's what I did on my NA account, and it was pretty easy to beat Taiga, to be honest. But I had several units that made it easier. You know, I had you know, I've got Lancelot, I've got Hercules, Beowulf, you know, I've a lot of things that can kind of fill that role, and then just summon an AoE Lancer, right? MHX isn't that bad. MHX she's not easy, but she's not that bad. You just stall a lot, and all you need if you really, you don't have any rare stuff, all you have to do is basically, you know, summon Ku Alter or Ku or something like that, and then bring your own Caster Ku, Proto Ku, regular Ku, or whatever, right? And if you play properly and you understand the gimmicks, it's quite easy to beat MHXA. Like, it's quite easy if you know what's going on. The hard part about it is figuring out what the fuck is going on. That's Guildfest in a nutshell, in my opinion. It's like understanding the gimmicks. And that's why they were, I think, a lot harder for JP than they were for NA. Because JP, they come out and no one knows what the gimmicks are. And everyone's blind. Everyone's like, what am I doing? What's happening? Oh my god, right? With NA, everyone already knows what the gimmicks are, and they already kind of know, oh, you're supposed to have this kind of unit and this kind of unit, or you can approach it this way or that way, right? Makes it a lot easier. Guildfest stuff is very much aimed at understanding the gimmicks. Actually executing what you need to do isn't normally too bad. Now, Guildfest 2 is different, because Guildfest 2 is definitely harder. But I also have less experience with it, because at that time I was busy as balls with work, and I was also playing WoW Classic, and I didn't really want to play a million challenge quests over and over again. You know, I beat every challenge quest once, but I mean, I didn't replay a lot of them. I replayed some of them, but like, I don't have much experience like with the Achilles one and stuff like that. But I would venture to say, from what little experience I had from Guildfest 2, that the Achilles challenge quest is harder than anything in the main story. I think there's some things that, you know, keep up with it, and again, depending on what kind of units you have personally, and that kind of thing. And obviously you get, you know, you do really get a big hand for the Achilles challenge quest, because you can summon Scatty or Merlin or Waver and those things from your friends list, and that's a big help, and you cannot do that for, you know, some of the harder main story fights. But I do think Achilles is harder than anything in the main story. But Achilles is also one of the hardest challenge quests they've ever done, from what I've seen. You know, I can't, it's hard for me to rate it because I didn't play it that much, right? But it has competition with like Shadow Knights of the Round Table and shit like that, right? But it's up there, it's tough. I don't remember that fight too well, but I remember you basically need to be able to survive a long time and be able to buff stack a single unit at a specific time. So, that's hard to do with budget units, unfortunately. you kind of rely on having a really strong support, like one of the big boys, right? You're gonna need one of the big boys. I'll say this though, if you're really struggling with that challenge quest, if that's just like the one challenge quest you can't do, and you just don't have like good supports for it and stuff, you can always choose it with command spells. You can't self-res, but you can use it to give yourself your NP. You know, don't worry about having your NP for when Achilles taunts you. Whenever he taunts you, just use it for one of the NPs to get fully charge you, and just make sure you have the buffs and stuff. This is Cosmos from Armored Core Verdict Day, which is a remix of a song from Armored Core for Answer. But yeah, that challenge quest is fucked. I don't think it was like I like the design of it, but from what I have seen, again, I don't have as much personal experience, but like I know a lot of the other budget players feel this way. It's just overtuned. You need too much damage. It's not reasonable for like free-to-play people or new accounts. The amount of damage and survivability that it's called for, like numerically, is just not really something you're going to get on a budget team. I can't say that like from my own experience, because again, I didn't ever really do a budget team for it, and I didn't like play it much. I beat it one time and that was it. But it does seem so. Yeah, basically, you know, he does his 1v1 me brawl run, or not coup, excuse me. He does his 1v1 me brawl spear every few turns, and then like for that turn, you need that unit to be really prepped up and ready to go, because everyone else can't really do anything. So you need to like survive a really long time, because Achilles MPs a lot and hits really hard. So you need to have lots of survivability, and then when he does the thing, you need to be able to like nuke the living daylights out of him. Which doing all of that on a pure budget team just isn't really a thing. Well, the thing is, it's not that lore accurate though. It's lore accurate to a degree, but like all that NP spam. It's lore accurate if he had an amazing master. Like I'll say that fight is lore accurate if he had an amazing master, right? You're not gonna see that level of NP spam bullshit nonsense, right? Otherwise, with the 1v1 me brawl thing and that kind of thing, right? Like it's kind of lore accurate, but also, his 1v1 me brawl thing isn't like Ku's. Ku's forces you to 1v1 him. You don't get a choice. If Ku puts down the 1v1 rune, you have to 1v1 him, and it's impossible for people on the outside to interfere, right? Achilles' thing is different, where you have to agree to the terms, right? Like, it's a 1v1 and all that, but like the other person has to actually agree to what the terms are. And it can actually enforce terms that normally wouldn't be possible, like, you know, Achilles not having his divinity thing, or you know, maybe, you know, Hercules not having God hand, or you know, whatever. You could literally make almost whatever kind of fight you wanted inside of Achilles' reality marble thing. So Ku's does not change anyone's abilities, although funny enough, it actually strengthens Ku. Like when Ku uses his 1v1 thing, it actually increases it makes his NP rank go up and his stats go up. But it doesn't affect anything other than that. But it forces you to 1v1, where Achilles is more optional, and then it can dramatically change people's abilities based on like what people agree upon. So, so not exactly lore accurate, but it's kind of lore accurate. It forces you to agree, or he runs you over. I guess there's that. We don't know if Ku used the 1v1 rune on Gil, but I would expect, because they never explained what the hell happened, but I would expect that Ku basically used everything in his arsenal against Gilgamesh to last as long as he did. I assume he used everything. He used his runs, he used, you know, disengage, he used, you know, death flight, for God's sake. He probably did everything like possible. Probably not death flight actually, but that wouldn't really work. But yeah, I imagine he pretty much did everything ever, and Gil was probably pretty annoyed. But I'm sure by the end of it, he probably used Chains of Heaven, and that was that. We don't know what Gil was like after it. They don't tell us. I mean, Nasu didn't say, and the village journal doesn't show you. I would assume that Gil wasn't really damaged, because it's, you know, Ku's really good for surviving. And if Ku got to Gil, Ku would obviously use Bulg on him, and that might, you know, just kill Gil, unless Gil has some bullshit Noble Phantasm that can counter it. Which wouldn't surprise me, because Gil has had literally, Gil has a thing that counters the multi-dimensional refraction thing from Curse, or from Kojiro. That is such a specific ass thing to be able to counter, that it wouldn't surprise me if Gil has some bullshit way to counter Bulg, but I would suspect Gil probably wasn't too beat up after that fight, but we don't know. They didn't say. And you don't see the fight in the visual novel. They don't even explain it, and you don't see the aftermath of it either. It just completely happens off screen. We only found out about it from Natsu after the fact. So yeah, it's one of the more unknown fights. That's why I've always said I wish we could get like a Fate remake anime, but like actually have Natsu involved heavily, and like, you know, really flush those things out, and then like change some of the really shitty parts about the Fate route, like, you know, Kojiro getting absolutely no screen time and having no character development in it whatsoever. Yeah, I'm sure Ozzy probably would agree to Achilles' 1v1 thing. I think he would, because like the way he is, but he wouldn't agree to like a fist fight or anything like that. You know, they'd pick and choose what they think is fair, and then they would, you know, go from that. But I really do think if Achilles fought Ozzy, Ozzy probably would agree to the 1v1, and you know, God knows what the terms would be, but it wouldn't be Ozzy like, you know, fist fighting or anything. I mean, he didn't get inside Kojiro. He was the guy just literally used Kojiro as the catalyst to summon him, which is weird, but that, you know, welcome to Fate. Like, Zoken didn't have a catalyst for Curse Arm, so he just used dead Kojiro as the catalyst, basically. I mean, it's pretty mixed. I think a lot of people would accept it, and a lot of people wouldn't. Like, first off, overwhelmingly, you're more advantaged from accepting it, because generally Achilles is going to weaken himself. Like, overwhelmingly, Achilles uses it to allow himself to have a fair fight with someone that he thinks is worthy, but, like, obviously Achilles has a ridiculous unfair advantage because of his, you know, comet form and his invincibility and all those. Like Hector, he used it on Hector, you know, because, you know, he didn't want this, you know, outrageous advantage. He wanted to basically, like, yeah, I beat you man to man, right? That's how he generally is going to use it. So normally it's in your best interest to accept it, because it's not like Achilles doesn't generally use it on people that are stronger than him. He normally uses it on people that are weaker than him, and then he makes the term something that gives them a, you know, a fair shot. So overwhelmingly you are, you know, going to be wanting to say, yeah, I'll do this, right? But in like the cases where maybe it's not necessarily going to be advantageous to you, or it's equal or whatever, I think it would just come down to the kind of, you know, servant it was. Like Beowulf, he'll do it, right? You know, people like that. But like you got some scumbags and shit that would not, you know, it just depends. Actually, I think a lot of assassins would accept it out of practicality, because I can't think of a lot of assassins that if they're fighting Achilles head on that have even a remote chance of winning. And if they can have a 1v1 where Achilles can't use comet form and is not invincible or something like that, you know, whatever they decide to make the terms, that's going to be way better for the assassin than otherwise. So funnily enough, in the challenge quest, they basically imply that Achilles would not use it on her because he feels bad, because he literally, in the challenge quest, he will not use it on Penth. So that's kind of a thing. But, so the whole Penth Achilles thing is kind of whack, because it really depends on circumstances. So Penth would probably accept it if he used it. If she's not, you know, out of her mind, which she probably would be. I guess it depends on what version of Penth it was. Like, if it was like Lancer Penth, you know, she's not going to be completely out of her mind, and then she probably would accept it, right? But Berserker Penth would probably be drooling and not be capable of even understanding that anything was happening. So, but so generally, Achilles feels bad that basically Penth's soul has been in turmoil this entire time because of him. Although, honestly, with the way it is in Fate, and the way it is in most of the actual legends, Achilles didn't do anything, right? Like, everyone acts like Achilles rapes Penth's corpse. That doesn't happen. That's literally Roman propaganda, right? And in Fate, that didn't happen, right? It's generally that she wasn't good enough of a warrior for him to even notice that, right? And he just commented on that she was beautiful, right? Because she just wasn't skilled enough. He didn't even notice, right? Like, in a lot of the older versions of the legend, they don't have, like, some dramatic 1v1. He just randomly kills her, and he doesn't even realize she's, like, an ace, right? And that's why she's so goddamn insulted, right? But like that's not really Achilles' fault, right? But either way, Achilles feels really bad that, you know, she's basically been in, you know, hell this whole time because of him. But he straight up says in his My Room line that, you know, he, on the one hand, he actually would let her kill him if it made her feel better. But he's like, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, he's not gonna betray his master. He's not gonna let down his master, let his master get killed or fail a Grail War just because of that. So, you know, he'll actually fight to his best anyway, right? So, like, on the one hand, so if he had, like, a master he didn't care about and he wasn't motivated to do anything, he'd probably just let Penth kill him and he wouldn't do anything. But if he has a master he cares about, like he straight up says, you know, he has more loyalty to his master and that kind of thing than he does about, you know, some grudge with Penth. So then he'll fight Pence, to the best of his ability. So if Achilles has a master that he really likes, or he's motivated to not die or whatever, and so he's actually willing to, try, and then Pence is either has a command spell on her to not be like, be a raving maniac if she sees Achilles, or she's not her berserker self, then she probably would agree to it, because, she wants a fair, 1v1 fight that doesn't really involve, like, necessarily their wacky superpowers and shit. So I think overwhelmingly she would. And honestly, because Achilles feels bad, I think he would use it on her, because he knows that she's gonna want that, and he feels bad that she's in the state that she's in, so he'd probably use it, and she'd probably agree, and that'd be that. But I think more often than not, what's gonna happen is Achilles might like his master, Pinthes is a berserker and a drooling maniac, and it's just gonna be that, right? And there's not gonna be any 1v1 spear. It's just gonna be a bar brawl. And I'll say this: I think if it ever happens in a story, I think they'll bullshit it and try to make it like an even fight or whatever. But if you on paper, she has no fucking chance. It doesn't matter that she gets bonus damage because she's mad against Greeks, right? That doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't. He is so much faster than her, and his fucking chariot literally slaughters anything she can possibly do. And then he's got the fucking shit. Like, it's so lopsided. Like, first of all, they already fought once, right? They already fought once, and we already know who won, right? So Achilles is obviously better than she is. We already know this. And then Achilles' superpowers are way better than hers. Like, way better than hers. She has no chance. But I feel like if ever it happens, like, seriously, in FGO or whatever, it'll be one of two things. They're gonna plot armor the hell out of it, or Achilles will have like already, lost his comet form, like he's already been shot in the heel and shit like that, and he's like way nerfed, and then it's like a big dramatic fight. Like, they're gonna want to make it a big dramatic fight, right? They're not gonna want it to be like slaughter one way or the other, right? It's gonna be like a whole thing. But I honestly, when you look at them on paper, Achilles just absolutely destroys her. His comet form, there's no way to deal with that. It's not even close. Most servants don't have a way of dealing with that. Like, it's completely ridiculous. And then the chariot is just bananas, so. Oh yeah, I think you're right. I don't think he can use it against females. I forgot about that. I think that is right. I have to look. There are some things like he can't use it on. I don't remember if it's just females or if it's something else other than that. But that does sound right. I think it might be divinity or something. I'm not sure if it was females or not, because I think he can use it on females in the challenge quest, but it's not necessarily lore accurate there. We don't know if Edmund is faster than Achilles. That's because Achilles is to our knowledge right now, Achilles is the fastest in terms of raw, like, normal speed, right? Like, physical speed. But Edmund's not using physical speed. Edmund is breaking the laws of physics and is basically teleporting and ripping through space-time. So, I don't know who's faster, and I don't think they know who's faster either. So, like, the creators. So, if, they'll probably just make it up if they ever fight. So, and we don't even know how fast Achilles' comet form is, because we've only ever seen it when it's nerfed. Right, in FGO, when he shows up in Atlantis, his comet form is already nerfed, and in APOC he doesn't use it until it's been nerfed. And when it's nerfed, it's ungodly fast and it's ridiculous, right? But it's obviously nerfed. We've never seen it used when it's like proper, so hard to say. The one is just so fast it's absurd. The other one is cheating space-time. I think Edmund versus Achilles would be really awesome, because they both have a lot of abilities that are really good for fighting each other. Obviously, Achilles doesn't have divinity, but he's got that soul burn attack, which I don't think would care about the divinity thing. But then Achilles has got the shield, and he's so fast and skilled, and the chariot's a big deal. But then, Edmund's flying and shooting Dragon Ball Z blasts and everything, so it's like, it's a pretty interesting matchup. And if it was ever done in an anime or something, I would only want to see it done if like the studio that was doing it had like a really good budget. If you had like some shitty budget and like you couldn't really do it justice, right, it would suck. The studio that would do it would need a lot of time, so they have, they can flush it out and not make like a rushed fight scene, which is how most anime fight scenes are. But if you could have like a studio that has a lot of time, a lot of budget, and could really do it justice, I think that'd be a pretty amazing fight. Yeah, it's pretty hard to survive your soul being set on fire. Because, like, Rao from Tsukihime, or Ro, whatever you say his name, he was supposed to be able to, reincarnate himself. Couldn't when Edmund used that on him, which is pretty whack. Yeah, I've always said I think Edmund is one of the strongest servants out there. He's not necessarily the strongest, but he's one of the strongest. Like, he's definitely in the top. Like, he's a big boy. And if you get lucky and, like, gank him, he comes back to life. It's like, fucking really? Like, that's what we needed. Can you imagine Curse Arm? Curse Arm is, like, so happy. He gets, like, so lucky. Like, Edmund is, like, super distracted. And he gets, like, the perfect moment. He has time to do his NP. And he's like, oh, yes. And then Edmund comes back to life and he's even stronger. And then it's just like, oh, no. Because then obviously Edmund's gonna know that he's there, right? And it's like, well, time to run. Oh, he can teleport. Edmund is like the closest thing to a Dragon Ball Z character. And like, he's like a Saiyan, you know, you beat him up and he comes back stronger. You know, it was a Zenkai boost or whatever. It's fucking stupid. Honestly, without plot armor, I legitimately agree that Edmund could kill Fergus in like 2 seconds, right? Now, you know, a lot of times those kind of things happen because this guy's story relevant, this guy's not story relevant. You know, plot armor is such a thing in Fate. But legitimately, Fergus is strong and everything. There's just nothing in Fergus's kit that could possibly handle Edmund in any way. And that's most servants. That's why I say I think Edmund, I mean, seriously, if Edmund takes something seriously and he just instantly uses his speed and just does like his soul flame bullshit, most things are just instantly dead. They can't do anything. They're never gonna be able to dodge it. They're not even gonna see it coming. They have no defense against that kind of, they're just dead, right? Like, if Edmund is going absolutely bananas on somebody and they don't have a very specific, you know, kind of toolkit, they're very fucked. Now, the thing is, with Fate and most storytelling, it's like, they're not going to show that, though. You know, they might show it for a side character. Oh, yeah, Edmund will shred some side character they don't care about anymore or whatever. But, like, you know, they're not going to have, like, the main servant of a story get instantly shredded by Edmund, even if it makes sense for them to be shredded by Edmund, because, you know, we had Nero blocking Gwen's NP with her bare hands for some fucking reason, right? Even though there's literally no reason that could happen, but, you know, they did it anyway. So, you know, plot armor. I love the kind of Monte Cristo. I love that book. It's awesome. I got Tusk to read it not too long ago, and he also really liked it. He's not generally the book reading type. Nero's smile is brighter than the sun. Oh, please. So, you know, Gil and Enkidu are obviously some of the absolute strongest servants out there, and overall, I would say Berserker Enkidu is probably the strongest servant out there, but we don't know for sure because we haven't actually seen him. But off of what we know of Gilgamesh and Enkidu, and then saying Berserker Enkidu is stronger, I think it's easy to say that Berserker Enkidu is probably the strongest servant. But out of ones we've actually seen, you know, normal servants, you know, not weird shit that, like, you know, beasts and crap, but like regular servants, I do think Enkidu and Gil are the best servants, if they're being serious. But then, like, Edmund is right up there, you know, and then I think Saber's the other one. My god, Saber is ridiculous. Like, right now, again, with Gil, you never know, because Gil always has so many bullshit random NPs, all these crazy wacky effects that, you know, again, he has something so specific as it to stop multidimensional refraction, right? That's really specific, right? So, you know, God knows what kind of other specific noble phantasms he has. But as of right now, there are things that maybe they could survive, you know, and maybe they can deal with it. But right now, I don't see anyone in the Fate-verse that can actually 100% definitely survive Saber's NP, not the battery one, but the EX one. I don't see anyone that can actually survive that. Like, no one. Now, there's some people that maybe they could, you know, like, you know, maybe Gil's got some wacky bullshit, and there's some other, a few wacky NPs out there. But I don't even think Hercules would work on that. Like, it literally takes your soul and sends it to Nirvana, right? Adam's different because Adam's not a servant, he is a noble phantasm. So that's not exactly the same thing. Also, it's debatable if, you know, Adam has a soul or not. He probably does, though, with the way they talked about him. But also, you know, you have his... If Adam's finished and everything... I will say, if Adam is stage 3, right? If Adam actually made it to stage 3, I think Saber is one of the only things that might actually be able to beat him. Because no one else is even able to use their abilities, because it's considered violence, right? And you're not allowed to do anything violent when he's in stage 3. But Saber's NP technically is not violence at all, it's enlightenment. So it could probably still be used. So I think Saber might be one of the only things I can think of that could beat stage 3 Adam. The thing is, most things would just try to stop him from getting to stage 3. That's the shtick. Also, some NPs can't be stolen because they're conceptual. They're not like, you know, physical in any way. So it depends, because then you have like the way Achilles works, or I mean Hercules is, Avenger Hercules works. It gets weird. But yeah, I don't think there's anybody that can survive that thing. I would say Surtur was weak. I mean, Surtur has a character material book, and he is a servant. And yeah, I mean, he's pretty strong. Like he's not like, you know, the strongest thing I've ever seen or anything, but he's pretty strong. Now, if you mean gameplay-wise, he's kind of just middle of the road, I would say. I mean, Surtur lore-wise is definitely above average, like no question. Easily above average. How do you think Okita would fare against Regend? I mean, you know, in terms of skill, I think Kojiro is definitely better than her, but I mean, her stats are better, but then she's got, you know, her fucking bronchitis nonsense, right? Or tuberculosis, excuse me. So, like, and without plot armor, I think she would just fucking die, because she'd probably start coughing like a maniac, and then she'd just get cut in half, and that's that. With plot armor, that probably wouldn't happen, and it would probably just literally just have whatever the fuck. Because, you know, I think Kojiro is more skilled than she is, although she keeps up decently well. But I do think Kojiro is absolutely more skilled than her. It's really hard to argue that, because again, he can mimic all these things without a Noble Phantasm. It's absurd. But she has way better stats than he does, and she has a proper Noble Phantasm sword. So it's gonna be like Artoria, right? You know, Kojiro was way more skilled than Artoria, but Artoria was faster than him, and she was stronger than him, and she had a Noble Phantasm blade, so he couldn't, like, you know, fight blade to blade like you normally would. He's gonna have the same problems with Okita. Not quite as many problems in that department. But because, honestly, Okita without plot armor is in really bad shape. Because if you read she has that negative skill on her, if you read what it does, you know, it's pretty likely to happen anyway. And then it says if she's fighting, it becomes more and more likely to happen. And if she's fighting something as intense as Kojiro, it would surely happen. And then she's screwed, right? Like, Okita, honestly, without plot armor is a pretty bad servant because of that. And a lot of the stories, they do stupid shit to make sure she doesn't have the coughing bullshit. So, you know, they can justify her doing, like, OP nonsense and not getting shredded all the time. Like, almost every story she's been in, they've done something to work around that. But in a typical no plot armor setting, or they just have it not happen. They do that a lot, where she just does, for no reason, it doesn't kick in at any time. Then it'd be a problem, because, you know, miracles. But yeah, without plot armor, it'd be a huge fucking problem. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, yeah, Okita's not dishonorable, and she wouldn't want to, you know, do something dishonorable against him, but there's no way for her to have a fair fight with him. It's not possible. Like, she's just so much faster and stronger than him, and you know, her blade is so much better than his, and his will break really easily and everything, right? So I'm sure she would not try to take advantage of those things, but, like, you know, there's no world where she doesn't have a massive advantage in that department. But, like, Artoria beating Kojiro is a combination of plot armor and getting really lucky, and then also, legitimately, Artoria has a skill that lets her take advantage of the circumstances that happen, right? Her instinct skill is basically the perfect thing ever for what happened. You know, she had actually seen Kojiro's technique once before. It was imperfect then, that's why she survived it. But because she had seen it once before, her instinct gives her information about it, right? And then normally, there's no information for it to give her, because there is no weakness in his technique. But because his blade is not a Noble Phantasm and it was damaged, the second time he uses his technique on her, there's still a flaw in it, because his blade is flawed now, because it's, like, busted. So there's a slight flaw in his attack, and she's able to see that flaw because of instinct and then take advantage of it, and she's skilled enough to do that. So Artoria was like a mix of her stats were higher, and you know, so she didn't die immediately, and Kojiro couldn't do his technique properly, and then her sword was so much better than his, she busted his sword up, so then he still couldn't do his technique properly, but then she had a skill that was, you know, perfect for taking advantage of the situation, and whatnot. But a lot of servants are not going to be able to do that, right? Like, even if Kojiro's blade is messed up and he can't use his technique properly, they're not going to see the tiny sliver of hope that they have for you know, getting around it, right? Most people can't do that. Artoria's rather... There's a few other servants that can do that, but Artoria is one of the few that can. Who's weaker Saber than... Wait, who's a weaker Saber than Okita? I mean, it depends, because I mean, it's like, again, Okita's very skilled, and she has some nice abilities and whatnot. It's just her drawback is so bad that if you don't literally have the writer on your side, making sure her coughing fits don't kick in at bad times, she's completely screwed. Like, imagine if she was fighting Curse Arm, right? Like, Curse Arm is trying to kite her, and that wouldn't go so great, but, like, he's trying to kite her. It's also going to take a while for her to deal with that, right? And surely before she deals with him, she's going to start having a coughing fit, and he's like, oh, I'll just do my Noble Phantasm now, right? Like, there's just so much shit like that she's so screwed by, right? It's terrible. But when you have the writer on your side, you can just make sure that doesn't happen at a bad time. And then you can have it happen at a bad time you think is dramatic, but then she can still reasonably survive it, right? Shit like that. I mean, Kojiro and Medea do team up when they fight Hercules. That happened off screen, unfortunately. But they do fight, and they fight together in Fate Hollow, but they don't really explain anything because they're just fighting the generic Shadow Beasts, which are actually horrifying, by the way. But yeah, the one time that they really fought together when it really mattered was against Hercules, and that happened off screen. So no fun things for you, basically. But basically, what Nasu said about that was the fact, of course, you know, Kojiro's got like the height advantage because of the steps. And he had help from, you know, Medea and everything. But basically, I don't remember exactly how Nasu worded it, but he basically said, you know, simply because of how Hercules is with his massive stats, he's so fast, he can crush your skull and, you know, all this nonsense, you know, that is, and he's got God Hand, you know, that is such a bad fight for Kojiro, even with the help that he received. The fact that Kojiro survived and actually pushed off Hercules, it just shows how amazing Kojiro is, right? Like, basically, that circumstance, even with help from Medea, should have spelled so much doom for Kojiro. He should have died so fast, so easy. Like, he should have just been just absolutely obliterated. But because he did not get obliterated, and he was actually able to get Hercules to retreat, that's a testament to just how fucking skilled Kojiro is. Kind of depends with Kojiro, because, you know, it kind of, like, if she just starts coughing and they're not in the middle of, like, a sword exchange, then yeah, he's probably not going to kill her. But, you know, if they're in the middle of a fight, you're not going to even know what that's from or why, and you're not even going to really notice, and you're still going to be halfway into cutting her head off, so. Yeah, Kojiro's obsessed with having a good fight. He doesn't actually care about winning or losing. It's not important to him. But in a pure skill fight, I do think Kojiro is definitely better, but that's a weird matchup because she's still Okita is still very skilled. Like, very fucking skilled, and, you know, she has way higher stats, and, you know, having a real Noble Phantasm is, kind of nice. You know, like, the blade, you know, won't break immediately, which is, kind of handy. You can't summon Kojiro, though, as not a Wraith, because he doesn't exist as not a Wraith. Like, he cannot be summoned normally because he's not a heroic spirit. He is a Wraith because he's not Kojiro. He's some guy, right? He's literally, like, we don't even know what his name is. Like, they've been very clear about this. He is not Kojiro. You know, he just goes by that because he's like good enough, right? Because he doesn't think his name is relevant, and the Grail is recognizing him as Kojiro, but he is not Kojiro. He's some guy. And some guy is not going to be a heroic spirit. You know, he became a Wraith. The reason, as far as I'm aware, I may be wrong about this. I haven't read his stuff in a while. But as far as I'm aware, the reason he became a Wraith in the first place is because he died so unfulfilled, right? He trained so much. He became so skilled. And he never got to really push it, right? He never got to fight a truly worthy opponent. And so, you know, he had lingering, you know, stuff until he became a Wraith, right? So I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that's why he became a Wraith. But he never did anything famous. He's not Kojiro is famous, but he's not Kojiro, so he's not a heroic spirit. So he cannot be. Now, it's actually easier to summon a Wraith than it is to summon a heroic spirit. Generally speaking, there are some very specific exceptions to this, like Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh is bullshit, but and other just a few, you know, specific things. But generally, you're not going to be able to summon a heroic spirit unless you have the help of something like very abnormal, right? Like the Grail system the humans made, right? Like, because that's like a whole thing, right? You know, they don't actually have like the Grail, right? They made like all this whole ritual system bullshit, right? Like that's the reason they're normally able to tap in and get help to summon a servant, right? Generally, no one is capable of actually summoning a heroic spirit. You don't need like the world to do that, or you need the counterforce to do that, or you need like to be a caster from like the Age of the Gods, and you have access to a ley line, right? It needs to be some bullshit like that, right? But summoning a Wraith is a lot more reasonable. So theoretically, it's probably possible if like some like Wadim outside of the FGO timeline, right? And like because Wadim exists in like Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero and all that, he's out there, right? So if someone as skilled as him, you know, maybe finds access to a ley line and some nonsense, they probably could, if they really tried and they researched and everything, they probably could reasonably summon a Wraith. It probably is, you know, doable for them, right? But you can't, you're not summoning a Heroic Spirit, and no modern Magus has any chance of doing that, even if they have a ley line or something. And there's a bunch of different Robin Hoods. Oh, nice, Marps. Happy early birthday, man. Yeah, there are various heroic spirits that are Robin Hood. But, you know, obviously if Kojiro had been, you know, turned into a heroic spirit, you know, he'd have higher stats and he'd get a noble phantasm to represent what he did in life and those kinds of things, right? Basically, he'd have like Billy's NP, right? Because Billy can do what he does with just his skill alone, but then as an NP, it gets to be stronger. Like the shots are like magically enhanced or some bullshit, right? And it does way more damage and those kinds of things. So, you know, Billy literally has the skill to do the triple shot thing on his own, but it's even stronger because of him being a heroic spirit. Then he's a bit weaker because of Servant, because Servants are weaker than heroic spirits and bullshit. But you know, so so if Kojiro had been turned into a heroic spirit, he would be stronger. You know, he'd have higher stats, he'd have a noble phantasm, he'd have skill, you know, like class skills from the Grail and those kinds of things. But there's no way to know exactly what he would get, right? You know, his blade probably wouldn't break immediately. You know, that'd be good. You know, he'd probably, his attack would probably do a bunch of magical damage on top of the triple slash thing, right? It'd be like the triple slash that's firing, you know, lasers or some shit, you know, it'd be something like that. You know, typical Fate things. That'd actually be horrifying. Imagine if he could do the triple slash and it would fire 3 lasers out of the slash at the same time. That'd be pretty funny. The thing is, there's more to it. Well, first of all, just because you're from the Age of the Gods doesn't mean you practice in the field of magic that would allow you to summon a heroic spirit, right? Medea was rather versed in many different things and is also abnormally skilled. You know, just because you're from the Age of the Gods doesn't mean you're skilled. You know, you might have access to better magics because better magics existed then, but that doesn't mean you actually are skillful in that art necessarily, right? So just because you're the Age of the Gods doesn't mean you're automatically top tier nonsense. But it's obviously a huge advantage. But yeah, I mean, Medea is way more knowledgeable and other things. But if you have some random, you know, person that lived in the Age of the Gods that was very knowledgeable of you know, that field of magic, and then they would still need access to a lot of mana, though. That's the thing. That's why Medea, you know, was using the ley line to do a lot of the shit that she was doing, because you need access to the mana. You can't just. That's one reason why Gil is so broken, is because Gil doesn't generally need mana, because he has real noble phantasms, right? They're not being made out of mana from the Throne of Heroes. They're real things, right? So that helps him a lot. So when you're trying to summon something like heroic spirit, which is obviously not real, you know, you need a lot of mana. Like, you need a lot of fucking mana. So that would be even if you are from the Age of the Gods, that would be a big problem. It's very difficult to summon heroic spirits if you're a mortal. But surely there are people from the Age of the Gods that would have the ability to do it. And if they did get access to the mana, and they'd probably be, I will say this, also the Age of the Gods people are be a lot more knowledgeable about, you know, how to find a ley line, and things like that. So if someone from the Age of the Gods was really putting their mind to it, then yeah, I would say they probably got that. But if you just get some random, you know, magician from the Age of the Gods, they're probably not going to be able to do it, even if you could have if they had tried harder in the past or whatever. But see, that's the thing, that the Age of the Gods peoples are magicians, and then everyone else are magus, right? And, you know, because they're using magecraft, not magic. And most magicians aren't famous. That's the thing. Like, most magicians are not famous. They had great abilities and all these things, but they're not famous. So they're not even servants themselves either. Most servants are weaker than heroic spirits, because servants are, the servant is a container and the heroic spirit is being put into it and it's being nerfed to fit into it. But they straight up say there are a few exceptions to that. That some people are so weak that the container, the glass, is stronger, right? Like, the glass to hold them is stronger than they are. And their examples are Uriel and Steno, which is not very surprising because they didn't do anything in their lives, right? They were goddesses, but they were useless goddesses, right? They didn't have magical knowledge. They didn't train. They didn't, you know, they're just there. So literally the existence of the class container, the default like class skills and class stats and stuff are actually better than them. So they actually get stronger from being a servant. But that's rare. There's not a lot of examples of people being weaker than the container. That's almost universally the container is going to be a limiting factor to you, and you're going to lose abilities and you're going to lose stats and those kinds of things. Well, the thing is, the hard part about, like, if you want to, like, abandon a Grail War is the Grail War is still going to come to an end at some point, and you're going to stop getting the mana from the Grail. So if you go off to, like, Germany, right, you're going to have a real problem there. Unless you're some broken Magus that has access to an insane amount of mana for some reason, like Ilya or something, you can't really abandon the Grail War and keep your servant, because eventually they're going to just fade away, because the Grail's not going to be there forever. The thing is, mana transfer is not going to keep your servant in there forever unless they're, you know, broken as fuck. Because the Grail is, this is something a lot of people don't realize about Fate, but this is a real, like, thing. The Grail is massively, what's the word? Subsidizing the mana cost of servants massively, right? Generally, it's overwhelming, and no human can even come close to meeting the mana requirement of a servant, right? They need the Grail to subsidize it. So that ain't gonna fucking work. There are some exceptions to that, because you have people with, like, you know, independent action, and you've got servants that have their own ways of getting mana, and then you've got, like, the fucking strange fake Hassan, who can just gather his own mana from the shadows and, you know, crap like that. And you have, you know, Gil, who just complete bullshit and apparently can just get mana on his own somehow. So, because, like, even a top tier Magus could not support a servant without the help of the Grail indefinitely. Ilya is one of the few that can, but even Ilya, it was, oh god, I didn't cast this thing. And even Ilya, it was very taxing for her to summon Hercules without the Grail, or to maintain Hercules without the Grail. But she could do it because she's, you know, nuts. Actually, Gil legitimately does have his own Grails, but it doesn't have the Grail system that the humans made around it, though he could probably make a system out of it that's probably better than them, honestly. And he probably has, like, mana potions and noble phantasms that gather mana and bullshit like that. Because he straight up says in the visual novel that he didn't actually need the help of Kodamine to stay in the world. He basically was just flattering Kodamine, you know, humoring him. He didn't need any help staying in the world. But that's because, you know, Gil is one got a high rank of independent action, and then he's, you know, his noble phantasms don't take mana. He's got, you know, God knows what inside of Gate of Babylon. We already know this. He has command spells in Gate of Babylon. Right, and command spells are made up of, like, a lot of mana, so he could just use those if he wanted to. Like, he's just nonsense. Nash did have an animation update. But, like, as for this event specifically, yeah, this event you have to use, like, old Mash for certain parts of it and stuff. I don't really get what for parts of it you get VR Mash and parts of it you don't. I don't really get why. I haven't looked into the story of this one. Yeah, Medea is one of the people that could have abandoned the Grail War. That's like the whole plot, though. That's like the whole tragedy there. Like Medea, legitimately, Medea and Kozuki could have just left and they'd have been fine. It wouldn't have mattered, right? Medea 100% wants to do that. Medea doesn't care about the Grail. She doesn't care about killing the other servants. She doesn't. She literally just cares about Kozuki, right? The problem is she thinks, because you know she has all this self-doubt and everything. She thinks if the purpose is gone, right? If they're not working towards the Grail or anything like that, Kozuki's not gonna help her anymore, right? Like she wrongly thinks that, but you know she thinks she needs to have like a reason to keep Kozuki around, or he won't, right? And Kozuki is, on the flip side, doesn't care about the Grail either, and also doesn't give a fuck about any of that nonsense. He just wants to help Medea a lot, and he thinks she wants the Grail, so then that's all he like cares about, right? So it's like a real tragedy that they like have exactly what they want, but they don't realize it, and they they realize that at the end, right? But it's a little late, and all that. That's like the whole shtick, you know, because literally just. She basically wanted to just, you know, she literally, it's like a meme in like a lot of the joke stuff, but it's truly what Medea just wants is to just be like a housewife and just live a normal life and just be happy, right? That's overwhelmingly what she actually wants, right? And that's like a meme, but that's actually what she wants, right? And same thing for Kozuki. Kozuki just wants to like not be a murderer anymore and you know, and try to, you know, understand what it is to, you know, have emotions and shit, right? That's like the whole shtick. But yeah, it doesn't work out for the most part because, you know, fate, if you're not the main character, it's probably not going to end well for you. So I do like in what was it, the race, it was the race episode in Chrono Phantasma, where I think it's Emiya's like, I guess they're the real winners because, you know, they just leave, right? That's kind of funny. That's actually a good analogy, right? That's what they wanted to do, what they didn't do, right? Like literally just leave and that it's kind of funny. So I would be really happy if we got Kozuki in the game, but I don't know if it's gonna happen or not. Maybe someday. Kozuki's not very popular though. Nasu actually likes Kozuki a lot, but I don't think Kozuki's very popular. I think it's the opposite. If anything, I think people would want him not in the game. Like I'm sure there's people that want him in the game, of course, but there's a lot of people who probably don't want him in the game because there's name me one thing where there's like a canonical ship, right? That people are actually happy about when they're in a game like this, right? Because people are just out of their minds, right? Literally, people were mad about Sigurd, for God's sakes, right? Like people are like, there's a lot of people that were mad about Sigurd and shit, right? Because Brunhilde was their waifu, right? It's like, so you know, there's always that nonsense. I've always said I'd really like it if Medea's third skill was like what's her name, Chloe, right? Where it has a niche effect where if you cast it on Kozuki specifically, then it gives him like a big attack and defense buff. That would be awesome. Like give him like a big one, make it very significant. It's like, wow, this is a real thing. You make like a 50% attack up and like a 50% defense up for 3 turns, something absolutely crazy like that, right? Like now all of a sudden Medea is like a big boy support, but only for Kozuki, right? Like that would be kind of awesome. And it's, you know, it's lore accurate because, you know, she's got the enhancements and everything. Well, theoretically she can give those enhancements to whoever the fuck she wants, she just doesn't. You know, this isn't really a thing in FGO, but I do find it funny that, like, in Fate Stay Night, obviously because Shiro's the main character, he has, like, 1 million women after him, right? Because, of course, that's how a visual novel has to be. Anyway, but I do find it funny, though, that Ku has, like, 1 million women after him, too, just because of, you know, his life and everything, and he's, like, the other male that has that going on, which is kind of funny. I mean, the thing is, if you decide to, like, not take part in a Grail War, it's not like the system of the Grail War is going to go away. You're still going to have your command spells and all this other bullshit. There's ways to, you know, give them to someone else and things like that. But, like, naturally, the servant's still going to be connected to you and all that nonsense, right? There's no, like, official way to actually get out of a Grail War. You know, you have to, like, you know, the church can do stuff and whatnot, but again, they're kind of intervening. There's no natural, oh, I quit button, right? That's not a thing. Yeah, so it's Ku. Let's see, you got the Goddess of Death, you got Scath, Zet, even Rin to a degree, and I think I'm forgetting. Oh, then his actual wife. Like there's quite a few. We saw red, but we clicked blue.
あの早急はどこまで続くのでしょうか。いえ、何でもありません。行きましょう、マスター。
Well, the whole daughter-sister nonsense all is legend specific. Like, 'cause a lot of the times they don't even exist, especially the daughter. They don't normally exist. Well, the sister, I guess, exists in most of the stories, but... Oh yeah, Mev. How did I forget Mev? That's very one-sided. I mean, most of them are one-sided, but that one's really one-sided. Well, that Ku does have bad luck with women, though. Like, even though, like, millions of them are, like, in love with him, first of all, he's not in love with... Weirdly, most of the ones that are in love with him, he's not in love with them back. Or he doesn't notice. That happens a lot. Or it just doesn't work out well. Or it's someone like Mev, who's a psychopath, right? So, look at the man's life. He had the Goddess of Death fall in love with him, and then she tried to ruin his life, right? Now, thankfully, unlike Mev, the Goddess of Death stopped doing that. Like, basically what happens with her is, you know, she wants, you know, Ku to be her man, and Ku's like, nah, no thanks. And then she's like, you motherfucker, right? But then she, you know, she kind of is watching him throughout his life, and she calms the fuck down. It's like, oh yeah, he is kind of awesome. I should probably stop being a bitch about this. But, you know, Mev, on the other hand, doesn't, you know, she doesn't take it so well in the long run. Yeah, it's kind of the Ishtar Gilgamesh thing, but she stops being an idiot after a spell. Where Ishtar really never stops being an idiot. By the way, so I was reading some Fate Strange Fake Again stuff, because I couldn't remember some of the details about various things. And they do pretty much say that, like, I couldn't quite remember what was exactly going on with Ishtar, and like I was pretty sure that, like, you know, she was more of her pure self, because of the homunculus and everything, but I wasn't 100% sure. But they do say, because like because homunculus actually do have personalities. A lot of times they're suppressed and everything. But because like the homunculus was like dying or something, like their personality was basically erased. And so the Ishtar in Fate Strange Fake pretty much is just pure Ishtar. She doesn't have access to all of her abilities, you know, because her container's, you know, limiting and everything, and she's like a fragment basically. But her personality is pretty much full-blown Ishtar. So. But I thought that was the case, but it is. Like they specifically mention it's not just because she's in a homunculus, it's because the homunculus had basically been wiped anyway, so it's just an empty ass vessel. Yeah, there was all kind of like Gios nonsense. That's a whole other thing. I wonder what's going to happen with the bull in Fate Strange Fake. Yeah, if you like Fate, I think Fate Strange Fake is absolutely worth a read. It's so far, I'm hesitant to say it's my favorite because it's not finished, right? And, you know, the ending in the latter half of a story is very important. A story can be so good at the start, you know, and then it just gets awful, and you're like, okay, this is shit. Right, and so I don't want to say it's my favorite yet, but so far it's been my favorite, right? Like, I really, really like it. So if you're a fan of Fate, then yeah, I think it's 1,000,000% worth the read. You're not getting an anime anytime soon. Like, it's not not getting an anime anytime soon. It'll probably get one in like 5 or 6 years. I'm serious. It's probably going to be like 5 or 6 years, so. Which sucks. I would love it to get an anime, but, you know, it's got to finish first. I prefer the light. Okay. So, the light novel, the book, objectively gives you more information than the manga does. Like, it just objectively, you get more under the hood information, more background, more stuff, right? But the manga is fine from what I've seen. I haven't read the entirety of the manga, but I've read enough of the manga to be like, yeah, this is not bastardizing the story. It's like, yes, you're missing out on some cool insights of like the way the characters think and how their abilities work and things like that. But from what I've seen of the manga, it's pretty good, right? So if you like vastly prefer reading manga, it's not like, as far as I've seen, it's not bastardizing the story and like, you know, ruining it or anything. So it's fine. But I do prefer the book because it's the original thing and it does have more detail and that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you're like, I have a hard time reading regular books, but I like manga, then maybe go for the manga. Okay, we've caught up pretty good on these things. We can make a lot of this stuff now. Yeah, the art in the manga is pretty decent, honestly. But yeah, you can always read both if you're really into it. But yeah, my favorite Fate stories are definitely Fate Strange Fake and Zero. Like, definitely. If Fate Strange Fake maintains its level of quality and it doesn't, you know, just start being stupid and doesn't, like, drop the ball, it'll probably be my favorite. But, we'll have to see. Like, so far I really like it because I've always liked that writer. I generally like his stuff a lot, and, you know, it's no exception so far. And I just like the cast a lot. Like, oh my god, I like the cast. Almost everyone in the cast I really like. The only things I don't really like in the cast is fanfiction Hercules. That's the only thing I don't like in the cast. They should have just, that is so forced, and it's fanfiction Herc, right? It's through and through. Like, I'm not a fan of that. Everything else I like character-wise, but yeah, I don't like fanfiction Herc. But I like his master, and I like, you know, all the other things and whatnot. Like the cast is really good, and I like the writing style. I like that it doesn't have a main character. I really like that it doesn't have a main character. I mean, Prototype doesn't exist, unfortunately. If you want to read Prototype, all you can do is watch the OVA and then read, like, the character material books for it. That's all you can do. It doesn't have a complete story. You do get a lot of information between the character material books and the OVA, but there's no complete story of it, so... no luck for you, unfortunately. Favorite and least favorite master in Strange Fake? I don't know. I've been on the fence on that. I'm not sure. I honestly can't even pick a favorite character in Fate Strange Fake. It's just, it's so hard. Like, when you like that much of the cast, it gets difficult. But, I don't know. I mean, Gil is probably my favorite character, but because Gil is in other works, I basically don't want to count him. Because, like, it's Gil, right? Like, I don't want to count him, like, he's obviously a big part of the story and everything, but it's like, you know, it's more interesting to talk about the Fate Strange Fake specific people, right? But yeah, Gil is my favorite character in it, but that doesn't exactly count. But for Master, yeah, I do like the dog, though. Doggo is a pretty great Master. Yeah, no, I like Flat a lot. I like, he hasn't been in it a lot, but I like True Assassin's Master. He's not the most interesting, I guess, but he's so different from what you normally get out of a Master. I feel like he's not going to get much screen time at all, though, and they're not going to do a lot with him, which kind of sucks, but, I like Gilgamesh's Master. I like, honestly, I like Hercules' Master. He's a bitch for what he did, but he's still cool. Yeah, I mean, I like pretty most of the Masters. I mean, there's a few I don't care about too much, but, yeah, I'm not sure which one's my actual favorite. No, Ozzy is not in Fate Strange Fake. Ozzy is Prototype. Like, Ozzy has never appeared in a regular Fate storyline. He's always in the Prototype side of things. It gets confusing because Ozzy is from Prototype, but he's from the prequel story that's actually finished. It's a prequel story to a story that doesn't exist, which is very weird, but that it is what it is. Yeah, you know, he fights Arthur and Arash and all those boys, because Arash is also a Prototype servant, which people don't realize. You know what's funny though? I too am very hyped for if the two assassins meet. That's one of the hypest things. I'm so looking forward to that. But it would not surprise me if they don't. That writer does not follow tropes a lot, and a lot of times, like, he will sometimes, and sometimes he won't. He really keeps things mixed up, and like if the plot unfolds in a way where they just don't meet, they're just not gonna meet. Like, it's just not gonna happen. That happens all the times in his stories, where like you think, oh man, this is gonna be a thing, but it's not. Like, it happens all the time in his stories. So, it could happen, and maybe it won't. I hope it does, though. That'd be very, very hype.
いいわね。どりゃ。
Basically, we have almost every prototype servant except for Perseus and Gilgamesh. And then obviously the ones that were never revealed. They never revealed the prototype assassin and caster, so obviously we don't have those. But, oh, and we don't have Proto Herc either. Which I don't think we'll ever get because he's too similar to regular Herc, but I think they should do it anyway. And I think people would roll. Like, seriously, if they added Proto Herc, because Proto Herc is basically Hercules, but he's got gray hair and he's like skin color's a bit different, but other than that, they're like exactly the same. But their abilities are quite different too. So I think, seriously, if they added Proto Hercules to the game, and it's basically Hercules, looks slightly different, but then he has gray hair, or like white hair, but then his toolkit was completely different, I think people would roll. I mean, people are so okay with like Arturia and their Arturia Alter and then Saber Lily, right? Everyone's totally fine with this, even though they're all crazy similar. I don't think there's a problem if we have Proto Herc and he's really similar to regular Herc, right? I don't think that would be a problem. But yeah, Proto Gil and Proto Herc is about it that we're missing. But yeah, I don't think Herc's ever gonna happen, which sucks. It'd be neat to see how they try to represent his abilities in the game. We don't know who the caster from Prototype was. It was never revealed. Maybe it was Medea. We don't know. Because a lot of stuff from Fates Stay Night was carried over from Prototype, so it's certainly possible that it was Medea. I've always said, if they ever reveal who it is, I don't think it's going to be who it originally was. I think they're going to change it. Because they're going to want to change it to something to kind of appeal to the more modern sensibilities and tastes and stuff. Because there's like no waifus in Prototype, right? And they're going to want to change that. They're obviously, so I think it's very likely whatever the original assassin and caster were, we're probably not going to get that. And they're probably going to be replaced with double waifus. But who knows? I know, I mean, Natsu said he's very partial to Prototype because it was like his baby and it was like the thing he actually wanted to do. And he was like so happy to revisit it when they did the OVA and stuff. So I don't know, maybe he will stick to whatever his original thing was. I don't know. I don't know the man personally, so there's no way to know. And hell, maybe they never reveal it, that would suck. I think it's gonna take a while, but I do think we're gonna get Prototype eventually. There's just way too much hype around the Prototype universe. People love it a lot. People like Fragments a lot. I think we're gonna get Fragments first, which is so wonky because it's a prequel story to a story that doesn't exist, and getting it first is so weird. But I do think at some point, because Fragments is finished, it's a full book, done, you know, beginning, middle, and end, it's all there, right? So I think and they did a drama CD for it, for God's sakes. So I think at some point, we're gonna get like a Fragments anime or something, and that'll put if it's done well, if it's got like a good studio and they were given enough time and budget, and I think if it's done well, it's not a bomb, that'll probably then lead them to eventually making regular Prototype. Like I think it'll happen eventually. Yeah, her voice is not really to my liking, but I don't think that surprises anyone. I don't really hype Ufotable like most people do. Like, their animation is fine, but a lot of what makes their animation good is the fact that they actually are given the time and budget that they need. It's not so much that they are inherently better at animating than everyone else. They really aren't. They're fine at it, of course, but it's way more of a budget and time thing, not so much a studio superiority thing. And they also, you know, they do CGI for like their weapons and things like that. They do a good job with it, so it's not too big of a deal. I've really never seen a Ufotable adaptation that I was like, yeah, they did a great job. And they normally make pretty bad decisions on the adaptation front. They don't do a bad job with like the animation and those kinds of things, but like the things they decide to change, I never really like. I can't really speak to K&K though, because I haven't read enough of the actual K&K books to know a lot of the stuff. I know they changed some stuff, and I've talked to some people about that, but for the most part, they seem to be doing a good job with K&K. But other than that, every time they do adaptation stuff, although the animation is nice, a lot of the decisions they make I'm never happy with. So I'm never like looking forward to Ufotable. I literally would not want Ufotable to do Fate Strange Fake, because if I look at how much they changed in such silly pandery mainstream, you know, my waifu ways, they would just do that, you know, in Fate Strange Fake 2, I think, and I don't want that. Honestly, I don't really like any of her sprites that much for Himiko, and I don't like any of them. But I like her first stage the most because it doesn't have all the fancy, you know, Asian shenanigans on it. I just don't like that kind of look. I don't like the really formal like Japanese, you know, wear kind of thing. I just don't care for it. But I mean, I don't really like her first stage either. It's kind of just there. But the absence of the over the top garb makes me like it more. But I don't like any of the three. Like I have Himiko because, of course I do, because I was trying to get not Virgil. But I'm never gonna level her. I'm literally never gonna level her. I'm never gonna use her. So it doesn't even matter. But yeah, I don't care for the dressed up look really. Honestly, for Fate Strange Fake specifically, I would want how do you I know what their I vaguely know what their name is, but I always forget exactly what their name is. If that makes any sense. I'm actually gonna Google it real quick because I don't want to mess it up. I always forget exactly what the company name is. It's like Brian's Base or Brain's Base. So I can't find it. Where is it? But, you know, they did. Where is it? No, it's not Shafts. They didn't. It's like BB. It's like 2 B words. It's something base. I can't remember what it is. It's like Brain's Base or something. I literally can't find their studio name here. What the fuck? How does no one know this? Everyone is saying all this bullshit in chat. I'm so surprised that no one knows this studio. It's not Bones. Why do people keep saying Bones? Bones is not a 2-word thing. Like, good God. I am giving you hints. I say it's like Brian's Base or Brain's Base or something like that. It's a double B word, right? That's a huge hint. That does not result in a 1-word studio name. Like, I've almost said the exact studio name. I just don't remember exactly what it is. I did say the studio name. Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, I didn't give you a hint when I literally said the goddamn studio name. Anyway, I want them to do it dramatically because they have already done a lot of work from that writer. Okay, I almost got it. Anyway, they've worked with that writer several times already. They're actually the only studio that's ever done adaptations for him, as far as I'm aware. They did, you know, Durarara and Bakano, and they do an excellent job of adapting his work. I'll say this, that guy's work is fucking hard to adapt into an anime. Because, right, you know, anime has to be a bit shorter, you're gonna have less detail, you know, it's a lot harder to fit a complicated story into an anime coming from a book. That's not easy to do, right? And that writer specifically is bullshit, and, like, good luck, right? Like, trying to adapt that guy's stuff is a nightmare. And they do a very good job with it. They do a very fucking good job with it. They really do a good job of characterizing the characters and splitting up the screen time properly. Like, they understand that guy's stuff, and they don't, unlike Ufotable, they don't try to force the story to be something it's not, right? Like, Ufotable tries to change Unlimited Blade Works to be, like, a better Fate Zero sequel, because really the Fate route is more of the Fate Zero sequel than Unlimited Blade Works is, right? But because they did Unlimited Blade Works, they're trying, and off of Fate Zero, they're trying to, like, force a bunch of ties with it and stuff that were, you know, trying to make Artoria more important than she was. Because I get it, right? Most people got into Fate through Fate Zero, right? That Fate Zero is really what started making Fate popular. The Fate Zero anime is what started putting it on the map. Now, obviously, a lot of people have gotten into it since then, but Fate got big since the Fate Zero anime, right? And the follow-up to that was the Unlimited Blade Works anime. And they did that because they'd already done the Fate route, you know, with Dean and everything, and it's a fan favorite. Unlimited Blade Works is overwhelmingly the fan favorite, so it was kind of the obvious one to do that. But Unlimited Blade Works is a garbage sequel to Fate Zero because everything that's important in Fate Zero is not important in Unlimited Blade Works, right? Because they already focused on a lot of that stuff in the Fate route, which you saw first, right? If you're reading the visual novel. So Unlimited Blade Works focuses on a lot of different stuff. It doesn't focus on Kotomine at all. They gave him a bit more screen time in the anime to try to, fix that, but Kotomine has, like, no screen time in Unlimited Blade Works originally. They try to focus on Artoria more because, again, she's literally, the main character of Fate Zero, and then she's not in Unlimited Blade Works much at all, so they try to make her significantly more relevant in the anime, and they just did a lot of stuff like that to give it more, and, like, Ilya, there's no mention of, like, because they hadn't written, when they did Unlimited Blade Works originally, they didn't really know how Ilya was, going to be in the past and all that, so she didn't have, like, all that nonsense about, like, Shiro talking about the, the house of, the parents and all that. None of that stuff is in the actual story, right? So they tried to, like, put a lot of, like, Unlimited Blade Works stuff in it that wasn't there, or Fate Zero stuff in it that wasn't there originally, and they also tried to make it focus on things that were popular. Artoria is really popular, So they tried to, they tailor it in that direction, right? Where I really like with the Baccano and Durarara, they didn't do shit like that. You know, that guy doesn't generally have main characters. They didn't try to force a main character into Baccano. They're like, oh guys, this will sell better if we give it a main character and kind of ground the story, right? It'll make it they didn't do that. They're like, no, this writer's not about that. This story's not about that. You know, if they wanted to adapt something with a main character, they shouldn't have adapted Baccano. Right, that's stupid. If you want a typical main character anime, you don't fucking adapt Baccano. That's ridiculous, right? So they didn't try to make a main character in Baccano. They just stuck to what the story's goddamn about. So, because they've already worked with that writer multiple times, and they've done such a good job with his work, I would overwhelmingly want them to do Fate Strange Fate. Also, that'd be awesome, because that studio has historically not ever had that much budget. They do an excellent job working with the budget that they have. But that studio has pretty much never been given a really big budget by higher ups. It just has never really happened. And if they did Fate Strange Fate, I think they probably would get a good budget, and that would be awesome. I would love to see what that studio could do with a really good budget and everything. But yeah, I think they just handle that guy's work really well, and I think they're the best pick overwhelmingly. Oh yeah, and they did Spice and Wolf, and I normally don't like more romance-focused anime, but that's a really good one. That's like that style of anime I don't really care about, but that Spice and Wolf's amazing. That's fucking awesome. Yeah, they do such a damn good job of characterizing. Like, they know how to characterize characters and how to adapt work and stay true to what they're doing. I think I really have a lot of respect for that studio. They fucking kill it, man. Where Ufotable, I'm like, yeah, their animation's good, but almost everything else I think is bad. But yeah, another thing, this is a really, stupid reason, but on what's the word for this? Frivolous. This is a very frivolous reason. But, those guys, you know, because they did both Durarara, and Baccano, right? They gave them the same style of opening, right? Which I think that style of opening, anyone that's seen those anime openings knows what I'm talking about, right? Like, I don't know how to describe it, but, you know, that's a very specific style of opening that they made for those things, and they obviously did that on purpose. It's not like that studio doesn't make an anime opening like that for everything they make. They did it because Durarara and Baccano are made by the same writer, and they're very similar, and like they don't have a straight main character and all those things, right? So that's why they use the same style of opening. I would kill to see that style of opening for Fate Strange Fate, right? Because obviously Fate Strange Fate is very different from Durarara, just as Durarara is very different from Baccano. And if you look, like, Durarara and Baccano are very different stories, and their openings are different, right? But Baccano does not have J-pop. It's like, it has jazz as its opening, right? And it has no lyrics. That's very unique, but it fits Baccano perfectly, right? Baccano would be absurd if it had like a J-pop opening. It doesn't fit, right? But then with Durarara, it's a bit more of a typical anime in a lot of ways, so it does have like J-pop and stuff, but it fits the actual show. But they still do like the same style of opening with like the way they introduce characters and the names and everything. And so with Fate Strange Fate, which again is a very different story from Baccano and everything, you can't open it up with like jazz or whatever, but like you could still do the way they handle the character introductions and everything, and you could do the class names instead of their actual names. There's so much cool shit you could do with that. And so because they handled Durarara so similar to Baccano, but then different to fit itself, I would love to see how they would handle Fate Strange Fate, because they would obviously probably do the same style of opening, but then more tailored to Fate Strange Fate. I would love to see that. Seeing Fate in that context would just be so amazing, because I've been a fan of that writer for a very long time, and very independently of Fate. And then I became a really big Fate fan as well, right? And then seeing those two things, you know, those two streams cross is really awesome, and I would love to just see it done well, right? That would be like such a I'd be so happy with that, right? Because it's a writer I really like that normally has nothing to do with Fate, and then Fate, which is a different thing that I like a lot, and then having those things combined, and then having an anime adaptation by a studio that does a good job, and then links to like Baccano and Durarara like that would be amazing. So but it's probably not going to happen. They'll probably get some other mainstream ass studio, because that's actually a rather small studio. So they'll probably get, you know, some bullshit, you know, like A1 or Ufotable or whatever the fuck, and they'll have some generic ass anime opening, and God knows how they're going to adapt it. You know, and of course, other studios sometimes are capable of doing good adaptations, but, you know, I don't have, you know, the track record for some of these companies is shaky. Yeah, see, I was a fan of Baccano long before, you know, Fate Strange Fate and everything, because Fate Strange Fate didn't exist yet. The thing is, a lot of anime studios can produce that kind of anime quality. It's a matter of, again, a budget and time. When you look at because a lot of the other anime studios are basically having to do slave labor to get by, and they're having to just shovelware out to just survive. But a lot of those studios like A1 and things like that, when they are given a situation, it happens every once in a while, where they're given a time frame that's reasonable and a good budget, they pump out amazing shit too. Like most of the anime studios, when they're given the time and the budget, are capable of pumping out really, really good stuff. The reason Ufotable, because actually Ufotable has pumped out some stuff in the past that is trash and looks terrible, right? But it's because they didn't have the time and the budget. It's just how it is, right? I think the reason why Ufotable has gotten this reputation is because a lot of people were exposed to their stuff, and they have been exposed to a lot of stuff that has that kind of that kind of, you know, time and budget that they got. That's a good question, Arjuna. Why are you trying to do that? Because didn't you already do it last year? So like, what do you even need from it other than, I guess, double Liz, you know, dual wielding Liz? I already did it last year, so I'm like, I'm not doing it this year. I don't mind that event though, it was okay. It wasn't amazing or anything, but it's better than this event, I'll say that. A1 is a really good example. They're a studio that's like, you know, really mainstream. Most people know about them, and they've done a lot of anime. And their quality varies like crazy. And that's not because they suck, it's because that's how the anime industry is. It's way more about, you know, who are the higher ups, who are you working for, right? Like what kind of time frame are you giving? How many episodes are you given? What's your budget, right? Like that's overwhelmingly what dictates the quality of an anime. Now, of course, you need to have the talent and you need to have the good writing, and like, of course, that stuff. But that stuff exists. You know, there are animators that know what the fuck they're doing that aren't part of, you know, like Ufotable and stuff. Like, of course, there are. You know, the biggest factor on the quality of an anime is the time frame they're given and the budget they're giving, overwhelmingly. And yeah, there are some studios out there that are inexperienced and scrubs and whatnot, sure, but you know, overwhelmingly it's other factors. And it's in video games. It happens with video games a lot. You know, a lot of times it's about what the higher ups want. Like they want them to make a mainstream piece of crap that's going to appeal to everyone, and they want them to make it in a really short period of time and that kind of thing. You know, so a lot of developers, they know how to make a really masterful, you know, video game that's like very, you know, a lot of like, you know, like whatever they want to do, it can be very good. You know, a lot of developers know how to make a good action game. They know how to make a good story game. They know how to make like, you know, like a more artsy game. You know, but they're not able to do that because it's not what the higher ups want, or they're not given the time. They're not given, you know, you have to have actually passion for what you're doing, also to, you know, put that kind of stuff in the game. So, Himiko just missed a 90% crit. I know that feeling. I mean, at this point, I don't even know. It's like, it's hard to say if Face... okay, I feel like Face Strange Fake will get an anime someday, because every time they do polls and stuff, it's always the most requested thing. It's been a very well-received book series. There are a few people out there like, oh, Face Strange Fake sucks, but, you know, that's with everything. And it's so, you know, in the spotlight for it to happen, and Fate is doing really well and everything, but the thing is, it's not finished yet, so, and the writer is really against it being done until it's done, so... You know, it's in a really weird position. Because a lot of people, I've seen this, and this has happened to Dean too. What was it? 7 Deadly Sins, right? So 7 Deadly Sins had its first season, and from what I understand, 7 Deadly Sins' first season was given a higher than normal budget, not the best ever, but a higher than normal budget, and they were given a decent time frame to make it. And, you know, it was well received. You know, and it had pretty good animation for the fight scenes and everything, right? So it was pretty well received. And then for the second season, same thing. They did not pump out a second season of 7 Deadly Sins really quickly. It wasn't like, oh, gotta do it next year. They took quite a while to make the second season of 7 Deadly Sins, because you need that pre-production. You need that time. You need to give animators the time to do what they're doing. No, season 2 was not Dean. Season 2 is still A1. That's season 3. That was Dean. But actually, that wasn't Dean either. But I'll get into that. So season 2 also was well received. They had good animation. The fight scenes were fine. And it was notably, a lot of times you'll see good first seasons, bad second seasons, because the higher ups, like, oh, this was successful, quick, pump out more. And so they don't get proper pre-production, they don't have time for their animators and all that stuff, and then the second season is garbage. This happens all of the time. right? Okay, so first season did well, second season did well, and they were I don't know why, very strangely, the higher ups allowed A1 to have a lot of time to make season 2. They did not pump it out, like shovelware. And then they did the movie, and that didn't do so well. It didn't do terribly, but it didn't do so hot, right? They had a decent time frame and a decent budget and everything, but it didn't do well. It was, I guess the format of Seven Deadly Sins just didn't translate to theaters or whatever, and it just didn't do very well. And then A1 quit. They weren't fired, anything like that. A1 quit. They were like, this didn't do very well, we quit. That's literally what happened. Now, they had already been like signed up to do the third season of Seven Deadly Sins, right? And they were supposed to have that pre-production time. For whatever reason, the executives were okay with giving them these long production cycles for each season. I guess maybe they figured out, hey, this isn't so bad, right? But so they had been in pre-production with A1 and everything, but then A1 quit. They were like, nope, fuck you, we're out. We don't know exactly why. It's probably because the movie didn't do so well, or maybe they got really pissed with the higher ups. Who knows? For whatever reason, A1 quit. And all this pre-production went to waste, all this time went to waste, and the higher ups, for whatever reason, this was a huge mistake, they wanted season 3 to come out at the same time that they had originally planned. They weren't like, oh shit, our studio quit. Guys, we gotta push this back. We gotta push this back maybe at least a year, but they probably should have pushed it back like 2 years, right? Nope, they didn't do that. They're like, nope, this has to come out right now, right? So they hired Dean, and they're like, yep, we're not gonna give you any pre-production, you have no time, you gotta get this out really quick, you have to meet this deadline. That was the contract, they had to meet this deadline. And then Dean was like, well, that's fucking bullshit and this is impossible, but we want money, because Dean, they wanted money. So what Dean did was they accepted the contract, even though it was bullshit, and they outsourced it. They outsourced it to some other company. Dean didn't actually make the third season of Seven Deadly Sins. I don't even remember the name of the company, but they outsourced it to somebody else because Dean was like, yeah, this is going to be crap no matter what we do, so what's the point? Now, actually, I agree with Dean on that decision. Like, literally, what's the point? They had such a tiny amount of time to make the third season of Seven Deadly Sins with no pre-production, so it's like, it was going to be garbage no matter how skilled they were, no matter how hard they worked, no matter what the pay was. The third season of Seven Deadly Sins, because of the decisions of the higher-ups, it was guaranteed to be trash. It's not possible. You cannot make a good anime in that time frame. It's not possible. And so it was trash, and they obviously knew it was going to be trash, so they outsourced it. They're like, this is going to be, shovelware garbage, we'll make a quick buck, whatever, we're not even going to do it, let these guys do it. So yeah, I've seen, and what's so stupid is Dean gets all the hate for that anime. Dean gets all the hate for that anime. When you look at that situation, it's like, how is Dean the one at fault there? A1 quit, and even though they had signed a contract, A1 quit and ruined the pre-production period, right? They didn't quit ahead of time. They weren't like, oh guys, you know what? We're not gonna want to do season 3. We're not gonna want to do that, guys. Maybe find somebody. They didn't do that. They waited until all this time went by and then they quit, right? So A1 is probably the biggest asshole in the whole ordeal. Now, maybe not. Maybe the higher ups were screwing them over. They weren't paying them well. Maybe maybe the higher ups had fucked up the contract, and they had gone against the contract, right? So, but off of the information we have, A1 looks pretty bad, and then who looks the next worst bad is definitely the higher ups, right? Who are just like, oh nope, we're not, because yeah, if your studio quits, you push the project back. Like, holy shit, your fucking animation studio quit, and you're like, nope, not gonna push it back, just shovel it out. Like, of course it was bad. What's Dean gonna do? Pull out magical anime robots out of their ass and somehow, in like literally no time, produce a high quality anime? That's not even possible. You could argue Dean shouldn't have accepted the contract, but companies need money. They gotta keep the lights on. They gotta make sure their employees can feed their families, right? If they're having a hard time, it's not responsible to turn down a quick buck, even if it's shovelware, right? The fans can have all their passion and integrity bullshit, but at the end of the day, these guys gotta eat, right? And so if you're an anime studio and you see a contract where it's like, guys, we just want you to shovel out a piece of trash in a year, and we'll pay you this much, of course you're gonna take it. Like, of course you're going to take it, right? And again, it's not like it was possible for them to do anything better than that. I don't have any hate for them, because again, it's not like what did they do that any other studio, like, it's not like, again, no other, Ufotable could not have made a good anime in that time frame. It's just literally anyone that knows anything about the anime industry would be like, yeah, that time frame, impossible. Like, no, canceled pre-production, no way, it's going to be trash. Like, of course it's going to be trash. Right? You're not morally wrong for accepting a job that's shovelware, right? That's not morally wrong. You were hired to make shovelware, and they made shovelware. That's not wrong. It's not like shovelware. They're not killing babies, right? Producing a shovelware game or a shovelware anime or a shovelware like tie-in to some other product. That's not a crime. It's a quick cash grab, sure, right? But they're not the ones that even make that decision. It's the people that hire them, right? There's literally, it's not a moral offense, right? It's just like, yeah, this is not going to be a good project. Oh well, right? That's not a problem. And people needing to feed their families is obviously not a problem either. And like the reason they get hate isn't because people understand the situation. They're like, yep, Dean's to blame. It's because they don't understand the situation. That's the whole reason Dean gets the hate for this. Is because you think most people are going to do the research for what we just explained? They're like, they probably don't even know who made the original anime, and then they quit, and there's a different time frame. They don't know what pre-production is. They don't know that you have like, the higher-ups and then the studio. Like, they don't know any of this. Like, no one looks into this shit, and they don't know it. They don't know it's outsourced. They don't know it's insourced. They don't know what outsourcing is. That's the overwhelming majority of the anime fans that saw season 3 of the anime. They were just like, wow, this anime sucks, right? And fair enough. But, I don't give studios hate and things like that if I don't look into the situation. Like with video games, I don't, if I don't know what their profits are, I don't know what their time frame was, like with FGO, the reason I'm so frustrated with the situation FGO is in is because I'm quite familiar with the situation. I know who the publishers are, I know what the time frame is like, I know how much money they're making. Well, I don't know exactly the money they're making, but we know they're making a lot, right? Like, so we're pretty, informed about what's going on in that area, and then you see what we're getting, and like, okay, there's something wrong here. Yeah, well, the thing is, from their perspective, I'm sure they predicted that they were going to get the blame, even if it's not their fault. I'm sure they knew that, right? I'm sure Dean knew that. They were like, okay, we're gonna do this, and we're obviously gonna be the front of it, and we're gonna get smacked. But they probably needed the money, so they just did what they did. But that doesn't. The fault I still put with the idiot fans that are too dumb to actually put any effort into understanding the industry before they blurt out, "Oh my God, Dean sucks." Right? That's childish, right? Like, sure, yeah, Dean probably knew this was coming, right? And they just like, yeah, well, we gotta roll with the punches, right? But it still makes the people like spewing nonsense fucking idiots. So and that's something, and publishers know this, and this goes for video games, anime, you name it. Publishers are so aware of this. Like, I hate this. I see this all the time because I've followed the game industry for so long, so you notice things like when you have you'll see games where like Namco Bandai is one publishing it, right? But they don't have anything to do with the development cycle or anything like that, right? They're just funding it. And if it's a game that they have faith in and they think it's going to be very successful and it's going to be like they think it's going to make a lot of money and it's going to be well received, they'll plaster their logo all over it, and they'll try to make people think that they even made it, right? They're gonna be like, it's like, oh, Bandai all over the box. When you start up the game, it's like Bandai splash screen, right? They're gonna be so they're gonna try to they're not gonna want it to be clear. It's not like when you watch a splash screen when you play a video game. It doesn't tell you, Namco Bandai, publisher, From Software, developer. It doesn't say that. It's just the company names. The idiot player has no idea who's responsible for what. Right, so like, oh yeah, I remember that one game, it was good, that was a Bamco game, right? All this other thing's got Bamco in the name, it'll probably be good too, right? They want that. The publishers know a lot of consumers are stupid, right? And they are happy to take advantage of that. And if they think a product is really good, the publisher will suddenly step in like, oh yeah, we'll put our name all over it, right? But then when it's something that they don't think is going to be good, or they're not going to have faith in, or it's going to be shovelware or whatever, they don't plaster their logo all over it, right? Like, I wonder why. Right? Whenever they think they're gonna get good credit, they're so happy to slap their name everywhere and be like, yeah, it's us, yeah. Like, they want people to think that they made it, even though they didn't make it, right? Where when it's shovelware, they don't generally do that, right? Like little corner, on the box. Like, you see that all the fucking time. Where if the publisher's really confident, they're all about it, and if they're not, they won't even market the damn thing. Yeah, there's a lot of things Bamco makes that does end up being bad. That is true, but look at Dark Souls is a good example. That's their like golden goose. Look how proud they are of that. Whenever there's a trailer for it, they're blasting their logo everywhere. You know, they do the interviews half the time. You know, they're and they don't even mention the name FromSoft, right? They don't even mention it half the time, right? Like they're trying to get credit for those kinds of things. Oh God, Konami. Oh, that's a company history. What manga are you guys even talking about? I don't know what chat is going on about. Yeah, I know. I need to wrap up. I'll try to play Impact later. I can't guarantee it though. I got a few things I need to do, but I do need to wrap up. And this event is trash. So I plan on playing Impact soon. I'm gonna try to eat and drink and relax a bit, but I'll try to get some Impact nonsense in here. The gaming industry is a nightmare though, but it's very similar to the anime industry when it comes to like the people funding it versus the studio, right? Like the kind of conflicts they have and the way like things are marketed and stuff. It's very similar, unfortunately. But yeah, I think a lot of like people that get into anime or get into games, like fans of them and watch them and consume them and whatnot, they don't know about the man behind the curtain very well. They put everything on the developer, right? That's so common where like they don't think about the budget and that the developer is not the one that sets the budget, it's actually the publisher, right? Like they don't think about those things, right? And so I see a lot of things get blamed or credited that has nothing to do with them, right? It's like you have one studio that will be given a great budget and a great time frame, and they produce something really good, right? And then another studio is given like the worst scenario ever, and they obviously don't produce anything good, and they act like, oh my god, that studio is so trash. It's like more of the publisher than anything. All right, boys. Hopefully I'll be back in like 30 or 40 minutes. I'll say something on Discord if I'm not gonna stream. It's like I'm planning on streaming again in like 30 minutes or so. But if I don't, I'll say something on Discord. All right. Well, I'm not gonna bother rating, so I'm just gonna stream again later. Thank you all for hanging out. Good luck with this event. It's shite, but what are you gonna do? Peace.